6:04, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Howlane, off and running. Brian here with you, John LaBeouf producing, get you ready for a busy Friday show. I'm fired up for today, John. I'm fired up.
Excited?
Oh, I'm excited today.
Yeah.
You saw title of the show today, man. JFK Files. We're digging in. We are digging in. Not till the 8 o'clock hour, though. To be fair, we got a guest coming on in the 8 o'clock hour that is going to dive into that. Jonathan Earle from LSU. Let me give you the full rundown real quick, guest list wise. We got our friends over at Lake Urgent Care hopping on board at 6:50. In the 7 o'clock hour, yesterday there was a press conference. And State Senator Rick Edmonds announced that he is putting forth a bill that will create the school district for the city of St. George. No real surprise there. Back when this whole thing first started, it wasn't about a city, it was about a school district. So to see that come to fruition is not a surprise. To see it come to fruition this quickly, or to see it come to a legislative issue this quickly is. We'll talk with Drew Murrell. He's with the Transition District over in St. George. He is also unopposed as a councilman in St. George, so he'd be a good guy to talk to about this. We've got Patty G in at 7:35. We got economist Scott Burns at 8:05. Dr. Jonathan Earle at 8:15, and then the folks from Cake That are coming in for Foodie Friday. I know. I don't need another dessert for Foodie Friday. That's. You remember what happened last time, right? With the king cakes and the stuff, and the cupcakes and the whatever those little bites were. Yep. All right, that's a long way to go. Or I should say, a long way from now. So let's dive in. Top stories and trending.
Number 5.
Starts us off with what we were just talking about there. Pieces of legislation are in the works to start the process of creating an independent school system within East Baton Rouge Parish for the city of St. George. It could be on the ballot as early as November. State Senator Rick Edmonds says he plans to file the legislation in the upcoming session that would establish the framework and necessary funding mechanism to make this longstanding goal a reality.
Number 4.
Looks like Congressman Clay Higgins will remain Congressman Clay Higgins. Higgins penned an open letter saying he is opting to not get in the Senate race against Bill Cassidy next year, believing he better serves, in his words, mind you, the MAGA America First agenda as a senior representative in the House.
Number 3.
We're going to talk about the Higgins story coming up at 6:35. Governor Jeff Landry signed an executive order declaring a state of emergency regarding the Louisiana Office of Motor Vehicles yesterday. Landry posted on social media that, quote, outdated software is causing crippling delays at the Louisiana Office of Motor Vehicles for the public. I don't know how the executive order makes things better, but as we've seen in other times of natural disaster, executive orders definitely grease wheels.
Number 2.
State Representative Dixon McMakin wants to revamp BREC. McMakin filed 2 bills yesterday for the upcoming legislative session to achieve that end. The first would reduce the number of commissioners down to 5, with the makeup of that commission being the mayors within the parish. The second would transfer control from the state to EBR.
Number 1.
Police have arrested a suspect in the shooting that happened Wednesday afternoon outside of Arlington Lake Hospital that left 58-year-old Patricia Jackson dead. Jackson was shot and killed outside of Arlington Lake shortly before 4 p.m. Wednesday. The Baton Rouge Police Department later said the suspect, 60-year-old Ronald Domino, was arrested shortly after 7 p.m. on the Mississippi River Bridge after dispatch was called for a man walking along the bridge with a gun. What's trending this morning, John?
Well, is AOC going to challenge Chuck Schumer for a Senate seat next year? Her name is being tossed around a bit as a possible opponent.
And every time it's tossed around, like, all the experts are saying, don't do this, it's a bad idea. Don't do this, it's a bad idea. And there goes her name again. There goes her name again.
Yeah.
And, all right.
Just keeps coming back.
Well, you can't. Okay. There is a balance of, not a balance of power, but a balance of tides between the House of Representatives and the Senate. The House of Representatives is supposed to be a bit more volatile.
Right.
The waves are supposed to run a little bit higher. The ebbs and flows, there's more space within that wavelength. The Senate is supposed to be smoother sailing. The Senate is supposed to be more calm,
Right.
more, august, more, well, they're going to be august either way, but they're supposed to be more, less reactionary. AOC,
Yeah.
lover or hater,
Right.
is reactionary. So she a bad idea.
In other news, Kirsty Coventry was elected the new president of the International Olympic Committee Thursday, making her the first woman to hold the post.
I know nothing about this woman. She's like a multiple gold medal winner, and
Yeah.
I saw that.
Just came out of left field, huh?
Kinda.
Wow.
Yeah, she was the first woman and the first African named president of the IOC. Um, she's a two-time Olympic swimming gold medalist, won in the first round of voting among 7 candidates voted on by 97 IOC members. Coventry gets an 8-year mandate that runs through 2023.
Okay,
Yeah, so she's gonna be in charge for a minute. So if we don't know her
Impressive.
now, we're gonna get to know her name real soon.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Hey, President Trump signed an executive order Thursday calling for the dismantling of the U.S. Education Department.
So
that happened,
yeah,
we knew that was coming, though.
That was a campaign promise. I know,
yeah,
but
it's just
the thing is, he can't dismantle the department. He can't disband the department. I mean, he can, direct Linda McMahon to fire as many people as is humanly possible, but it literally takes an act of Congress to undo the department. There will be a Department of Education one way or another. I'm torn on this one.
Yeah.
Because if you want to be a results-driven person, the Federal Department of Education has done absolutely nothing but see our numbers go down comparatively to other countries. On the flip side of it, though, when people talk about how the deep state or the bureaucratic end of the government kind of worms its way into every little thing to where it's too big to dismantle.
Yeah.
This is going to be a tough one. I don't know how you get this done without hurting people.
Unfortunately, yeah, that's just the case.
Just
but
monetarily.
Yeah.
Monetarily.
For sure.
If you look at state by state around the country, I believe the lowest end of a budget is 10% coming from the federal government. For example, like right next door to Texas, and admittedly, I have not looked up all the states, but when you look at a state's educational department, when you look at their individual budgets, you're not going to find lower than 10% of that budget coming from the federal government. I don't know any state around the country who can afford to cut 10% right now, especially not when you're looking to make progress. Like we are making progress here in Louisiana.
Yeah,
but we're making progress in Louisiana based off of what Louisiana is doing. We're not making progress in Louisiana based off of what the federal Department of Education is telling us to do. It's back to basics. It's the polar opposite.
Yeah, we're just pretty much competing with ourselves.
We need
just trying to be better than we were.
Right. But we're getting that done internally.
Yes.
We just need someone to cut us a check and say thank you for playing. That's
there you go. Yeah.
613 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. We are due up for our first break. LSU baseball on the road this weekend, as is LSU softball. We'll talk about it next. 616 Talk 1073 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Got a cool start to your morning this morning. I'm showing us at 39 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. Although it was 2 degrees cooler in Sherwood than it is downtown. But yeah, definitely a cooler start to your morning this morning. LSU baseball, ranked number 2 in the country right now, is at number 5, Texas. LSU baseball has a 16-game winning streak. It's going to be on the line tonight. They begin that 3-game set. Tigers enter the series with a team batting average of 345. Head coach Jay Johnson says the offense reminds him of what he saw a couple years ago in 2023 when LSU won a national championship.
There's a relentlessness of quality at bats. Like there's no break in that order, kind of regardless of who we play. You know, I think it's kind of 13 guys probably at the forefront of that now. That's pretty clear. And all of them can do whatever we need them to do. I think what reminds me of them is their ability to adjust quickly. Like if we're off, we can get back on track.
Play, John, if you would, play the first sentence of that soundbite again.
There's a relentlessness of quality at bats.
Oh, I love that phrasing. I love that. There is a relentlessness of quality at bats. Texas, meanwhile, 17-2 on the season. They actually just lost on Tuesday. They dropped a midweek game to UTSA, the Roadrunners of San Antonio. Longhorns team ERA is 3.22. So while there is a relentlessness of quality at bats from LSU, they haven't seen pitching this good yet. Texas's ERA is 10th best in the country. Tigers have 5 players hitting 367 or higher. Daniel Dickinson is at 368, giving credit to his mom's camera work for helping him with his swing.
My mom's never missed a game that I've ever played, and so she always videos my at-bats, and so you'll see her up in the student or not the student section, the parent section, videoing my at-bats still. And so sometimes I use those, and at Utah Valley I use those. And so I'm not really a metrics guy or anything like that. I'm kind of just a guy who watches videos, and I'm pretty good at feeling out my swing.
I mean, you're at LSU now. You've got a whole department for that, right? There's got to be, look, I'm not discrediting. I appreciate the homework, absolutely. But there's got to be somebody on staff who has a better angle. Maybe. I don't know. By the way, Tigers are coming in with a strength of schedule ranked 254th. So only 2 teams that they've played so far have a winning record. Texas is 17-2 overall. You can expect big crowds in Austin, the kind of atmosphere you want.
At Utah Valley, it was fun playing with friends, but there would be like 300 people there. Opening day, there was 11,000, and I went 3 for 4. Like, as soon as the stakes get higher, I just seem to rise, and I enjoy playing in front of a lot of people. So at the end of the day, it's just execution, playing the same game of baseball. I like to think of it as that I'm just playing wiffle ball in the backyard.
First pitch is at 7 p.m. on our sister station, Eagle 98.1. Here's the Fox Business Report. Good morning, Christy. Welcome in, sweetheart. Starting off up in your interstates, we're looking about as clean as we can on the interstates. 10 westbound coming in from Ascension Parish is good. 10 eastbound coming in from West Baton Rouge is good. I-12 westbound coming in from Livingston Parish. Normally we have some pretty heavy volume and delays, but I think it's looking like a lot of folks felt that cooler air outside, nice and snugly under the covers, may have hit the snooze button because we're not there yet. We're clean coming in from Livingston Parish. Meanwhile, on your surface streets, only two things to look out for right now. Just had a stalled vehicle reported Florida at Foster, but it's not causing any major delays because we don't have the kind of volume that it would take to cause delays right there. And then over on South Choctaw at West Dual, we're looking at an accident in the roadway from about 20 minutes ago. And that's literally all we have to report from the Shaw Bills Tire Traffic Center. 624 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Going to dig back in on the rest of our sports. Man, there's a lot to cover right now, y'all. When you have that overlap of basketball and baseball, March Madness started yesterday. Technically started with the first four in on Tuesday and Wednesday, but the big dance, the round of 64, got underway yesterday, and so much action going on. Want to stay with this sequentially. Actually, before we get back into any of our sports, got to remind you about the folks over at Mathern's. Downtown on 3rd Street, Nicholson Gateway Shopping Center directly across the street from Tiger Stadium, and now back home in their OG location on Highland by Kenilworth. If you live in Kenilworth, if you've lived in Kenilworth for a while, you remember that old school Kenilworth supermarket before it became Robert's? Well, it's back to being Mathern's. So this was their first location in Baton Rouge, and they're just could not be happier to be back home where they got things started here. The family you miss, the prices you miss have come back home to Highland at Kenilworth with Mathern's Market. I was in Mathern's last Friday. I was producing baseball last Friday and stopped by Mathern's, and I was like, man, I hope they still have the wing bar open because they have a hot wing bar at the campus location. And I stopped in and I was like starting to load up a plate with grab about a dozen or so wings before heading over to the studio. And as I'm like, I grab the tongs, I start putting the wings in the plate, and I'm like, dadgummit, it's a Friday in Lent. Oh, put the wings back and grab myself a sushi roll before heading over. Dadgummit. I know. They're so good, though, John. You got to try them. They're so, so good. Different flavors. They got the habanero, the honey habanero. They got a Korean barbecue. They got a Cajun. They got the lemon pepper and salt. Lemon pepper and garlic, excuse me. It's fantastic. That's at the campus location. I got to swing by the new location, see the new digs. I want to give them a minute to get settled in. It takes a minute before you move into a house. You got to unpack all the boxes. Move into a grocery store. It's a lot of boxes to unpack. Anyway, Mathern's is back home. Highland of Kenilworth. Back into it. LSU baseball is at Texas this weekend. LSU softball. Beth Tarina and her Tigers. Her 27-1 Tigers are on the road this weekend for their first conference road trip as well. at number 13 Georgia. You're going to hear them right here on Talk 107.3 FM for all three games this weekend. They're at Georgia at 5 p.m. tonight, 1 p.m. tomorrow, and 1 p.m. on Sunday. And yeah, we are going to be able to get all three of them in because we also carry LSU women's basketball. That doesn't tip off until 9:15 tonight. So going to be a lot of LSU sports on Talk 107.3 tomorrow with softball at 1 and then basketball at 9:15. And yes, it is worth noting LSU women's basketball. They've got the late start. Ugh, gross for late start. But in the big dance, that's how it plays out sometimes. They're at home, obviously. They're a 3 seed, so they're at home hosting San Diego State, who is the 14 seed. You'll hear it right here. Patrick Wright, Shada Williams will be on the call for the game tomorrow night. Meanwhile, back on the men's side, how about McNeese, huh? How about it for General Will Wade and his McNeese Cowboys? Pulling the dub yesterday, beating out Clemson. McNeese is the 12 seed, beat out the 5 seed in Clemson, and it was never really in doubt, y'all. I mean, there was a good chunk of the first half where they had a 6-point lead-ish, and then there was a stretch where they turned that 6-point lead into like 13, and it never got back under 10, at least not that I was able to keep up with. At one point, they were up by 24 in the first half. So a lot of folks were asking, Will Wade announced before the game, the day before the game, that he was taking the NC State coaching job. And a lot of folks were like, why would you say that now when your team's about to go play? Like, why would you want that hanging over their heads before game time? And I thought it was a brilliant move, personally. Get it out of the way. It's no longer hanging over their heads. These college athletes today know the business of college athletics, and they know full well what could be in front of them. So why mess around with it? Be open, be honest. Say, look, yeah, next year I'm going to coach the Wolfpack. Right now, we've got a job to do. McNeese will move on to take on Purdue, who beat High Point yesterday by 12 or 13 points, but they actually struggled in that game for a little bit. There's actually a good possibility that McNeese ends up in the Sweet 16. Here's news. All right, I've got to get you that Bill Cassidy cut. First time in a month, stepped on the scale and actually lost a pound. After losing 17 pounds through December and January, I went February at the exact same weight, like within 0.3 of a pound.
Okay.
I was down 1.2 today.
Hey, there we go. Progress, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Progress, man.
And I know for certain Mardi Gras is 100%,
Oh, for sure.
100% king cake.
Oh, absolutely.
And I honestly think that
No
1.2 is more, but we had steak for dinner last night.
Yeah.
I have a very buttery steak, so a lot of
Mm.
salt content in that.
Yeah, yeah.
The wife and I had a couple glasses of wine to go along with the steaks, and it was a great night.
Yeah, yeah.
Great night. But had I had codfish and broccoli, I probably would have been down even more this morning.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But no, I definitely ate till I had my fill.
And with your steak, did you do like potatoes or anything like that?
Yeah, but I didn't have any
Potatoes or
potatoes. I had asparagus.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, man.
Yum. This one. Whatever. 'Yes, it is a cooler start to the morning, but will it stay that way? Here with your forecast is WBRZ meteorologist Balin Rogers. .637 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. We're talking with the folks from Lake Urgent Care coming up in our next segment. Don't forget, 8:15 this morning, we've got LSU Honors College and LSU Honors College Dean, Professor Jonathan Earle. He's an expert on U.S. political history and conspiracy theories. So naturally, we're going to talk about the JFK files that have been made available to the public. What's new? What's missing? What don't we know yet? How much has changed with the releasing of these files, and how many conspiracy theories are left, unanswered? That's coming up at 8:15 this morning. Also, as I'm teasing out parts of the show, we got Drew Murrell coming up at 7:15, talking about the proposed school district within the city of St. George. This should not come as a surprise to anyone, because when all the folks that wanted a city of St. George way back when they got started, it was about having the independent Southeast East Baton Rouge Parish School District. That's what they were going after originally. Better schools for their kids. That's all they wanted. Better schools for their kids. And they were shut down at seemingly every turn. Ultimately, it came down to them being told on the state Senate floor, if you want to have your own school district, you've got to form your own city. So that's where things pivoted. And they said, okay, you got it. We will form our own city. A decade later, here we are. Tell you what I'm curious to hear about, though, from Drew Murrell is this too soon? Because if you look at it through the lens of from the time they started fighting for this till now, it doesn't feel too soon. Simply because if you had a first grader when this effort started, you're shopping colleges right now. That's when you take it into that perspective, there is no time to waste. It doesn't matter if it's too soon or not. If you want to get your kids into school, if you want to set up a system that you believe will better serve your children, the time that your children are in school is limited. It is very, very finite, and it goes by so fast. Looking forward to that conversation next hour. Right now, though, let's go back to one of our another story from Top Stories and Trending, and that is that U.S. Congressman Clay Higgins says he's not going to run for Senate against Bill Cassidy next year. Higgins says that he carefully considered a Senate bid, as polls show Republicans are interested in him running for U.S. Senate. Higgins did say that he decided to remain in the House to focus on advancing the MAGA America First agenda. You heard the story from our news partners at Louisiana Radio Network. They talk with Pearson Cross. He teaches politics over at ULM. He says Higgins would have been a viable candidate.
It's possible, however, that, as he pointed out in his letter, he enjoys where he is in the House. He's been there long enough now to have gained some positions of authority, and he feels like he would be better served in the House than the Senate.
Now, this paves the way, seemingly, for Treasurer John Fleming to be the big challenger for Cassidy. Cassidy, who, he faces a little bit of uncertainty in his reelection bid. We'll get to that in a minute. But Pearson Cross says Cassidy's vote to approve Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as Health and Human Services Secretary could give Cassidy an advantage, appealing to more MAGA conservatives.
Certainly, Cassidy would have been more vulnerable in a Republican primary had he voted against RFK's nomination.
I think he would have been dead in the water had he voted against RFK's nomination. One more for Pearson Cross. He says another hurdle for Higgins is fundraising, and to what extent he'd be able to fundraise at the levels needed for a U.S. Senate seat. Cut 9.
Congressman Higgins has never been a prolific fundraiser, but running for the Senate would require spending a lot of time raising money, and he may have thought that price was too high.
It's possible. It's possible. I tell you what I don't like in Cassidy's opponents thus far, or what I didn't like from Clay Higgins' statement, and what I'm not liking from the press releases coming out from John Fleming, is this need and this want to make sure you serve Donald Trump first. When I step into the polls to vote for a Louisiana senator, I want to know that they're serving Louisiana first. There are 50 states within America, and one would think that what's best for America is best for Louisiana, but that's not always the case. I mean, there's a lot of times where our needs are a little bit different than the rest of the country's, which, by the way, if you break down either Senator Kennedy's or Senator Cassidy's voting record, you will see where they don't vote Republican 100% of the time. That minute percentage where they don't is exactly where the needs of Louisiana and the needs of the rest of America are not exactly in lockstep. So when Clay Higgins says he can better serve MAGA America First agenda, no. You are not Donald Trump's personal envoy. You are the congressman from the 3rd District of Louisiana. You serve the people of Louisiana first and foremost. And Fleming's been the same way. Fleming said in his own campaign ads when he was running for treasurer, he was only running for treasurer to run for Senate. That kind of chess maneuvering, it doesn't bode well, or at least as a Louisianan, I don't think it bodes very well. Now, that being said, you cannot separate Donald Trump from this equation. And Senator Cassidy voted to impeach Donald Trump. His reconciliation on that front is an important piece of this puzzle. Now, Senator Cassidy was on with us, was it Wednesday? It was Wednesday. And in that conversation, we were going to be talking about a number of different issues from things he's working on, but there was no way I could have any conversation with him without some level of asking about reconciliation with the executive branch. So I just asked him heads up, was it awkward to have a meeting with Donald Trump? Was it awkward to walk into the White House and sit across from the man that you voted to impeach?
No, we're focused on the future. The president's focused on his agenda. He's got 2 cabinet secretaries that he would not have if I had not helped him get them. He's got like Melania Trump is now interested, I'm told, in some legislation that I have regarding online safety for children. We're focused on the future. And by the way, the future of our country and the future of Louisiana. And so he said, "Hey, Bill, good to see you." Says hello to everybody else. "Mr. President, good to see you." And then it's how do we get to work? So no, boom, positive.
Now, what I took away from that was a couple things. First and foremost is if they're working together, the senator does have his opportunity to rebuild his resume with Donald Trump. And like you said, Robert F. Kennedy does not get across the finish line without Bill Cassidy's vote. Very important there. But if you flip the script and look at it through the Donald Trump lens, you have to ask yourself, I can't do anything with Bill Cassidy right now, so I'll work with him until I have a better option. Is that the view of the White House? Because if it is, the door's not closed on Bill Cassidy. It might feel like it. There might be some who believe they're never going to deal with Cassidy again or they're done with him. But if the man who got impeached is willing to move forward, should that factor into your vote as well? All important questions. All important questions. Now, I guess I could have asked a follow-up question is, do you expect an endorsement in this race from Donald Trump? Especially when you consider that John Fleming was part of the inner circle last time around. John Fleming, worked in the White House in Donald Trump's first term. Follow-up question there: why weren't you invited back? But I don't think you're going to see a full-on Donald Trump endorsement. By the way, if you are of the camp that's done with Cassidy and John Fleming's not blowing your skirt up either, we're not done with candidates in this race yet. We got a year to go. I would say we have over a year to go, but remember, we're going to have closed primaries on this one. So it's about this time next year, right about now, that things are going to be hot and heavy down to crunch time. All right, we're coming up on 6:47. Quick break, coming back with Lake Urgent Care next. I don't know what that was. I don't know if or when we'll be able to use them, but if you could grab cuts 4, 5, and 6, please. To see him getting some voice work. That's comedian Bobby Slayton. He's this guy's doing this commercial. He's actually a very gifted comedian. Galen says, Brian, education money would still flow from the feds. I'm glad you have that level of confidence, Galen. I don't, simply because right now Doge, as it should be doing, is making sure every department in the federal government is going to be running at peak efficiency. So if there's no, are we Doging backwards? Hear me out. Should we have gotten rid of the Department of Education first to make sure that everything the Department of Education handles right now is properly delegated to a different department so that it doesn't get lost in the wash? Because if the checks need to come from Treasury, well, there's not going to be an employee. We've nixed that that portion of Treasury that would have gotten it. If the money's going to come from wherever it would come from, it would obviously come from Treasury. But a good example is the school lunch program. I'm not worried about the school lunch program because it's always come from the Department of Agriculture. It's not going to miss a step. But I'm one that regularly hesitates to put faith in bureaucracy. And shrinking bureaucracy, while good in the long term, can present short-term pain. Hey, I need to forward you a commercial because we're going to need. I'm going to forward you a commercial. We're going to need to have it at the ready. Not today. I probably should have sent it to you before today, so we could have had it as part of that last segment. But in the ongoing discussion about
so he can run for U.S. Senate or governor next. John Fleming doesn't want this job. Don't give it to him.
There you go. I just sent you the link to the YouTube. It's a 15-second commercial from when Scott McKnight was running for treasurer.
Okay. So after the show, I'll clip
Yeah.
it up and have it on there.
Yep.
All right. Got it. So nothing yet on the line.
I don't know how that popped up, but okay. Let me email them back real quick. Coming up on 6:53 at Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Waiting to connect with the folks over at Lake Urgent Care. We're expecting Rachel Frick, their VP of Patient Experience. Looking forward to this segment, too, because this is what they're known for, right? Being fast, being convenient, being effective. So hopefully we can make that connection real soon. If not, we'll have that conversation at another time. In the meanwhile, we can keep it moving here. We got a lot. I mean, there's a lot that's. I'm hoping to not leave on the cutting room floor today. So while we wait for Rachel, let's dive back into a story that I didn't think we were going to have time for today, but it looks like we might. You get cuts 4, 5, and 6 over there. Awesome. Actually, before we get to those cuts, let me remind you about the folks over at Landmark Bank. LandmarkBankLA.com is the website. LandmarkBankLA.com. Hey, who's your banker? Not asking who your bank is. I'm asking who your banker is. Not the name that's on the sign out front, the name that's on a little name badge on the shirt when you walk in. If they're wearing a name badge, I don't know. But Landmark Bank, been doing this for over 100 years now. They've been a community bank for well over 100 years. And they believe in that personal touch. They believe in that personal level of service. Whether you're talking about your banking for your own personal needs, whether you're talking about borrowing money to buy a home, borrowing money to renovate your home, whether you're talking about starting a business, growing your business, you want to have that one-on-one relationship. You want to have that ability to shake hands with the person who is actively involved in getting you where you need to be. That's why I tell you about Landmark Bank and LandmarkBankLA.com. You won't find them in the heart of Baton Rouge, but you will find them in the surrounding areas. You'll find them in Denham. You'll find them in Brewley. You'll find them in Zachary. They've built that way on purpose. They want to make sure that they stay a community bank within your community. LandmarkBankLA.com. All right. Hopefully we can connect with Rachel here. The clock is ticking, and as it stands right now, we might just have to punt on them because we're not going to have time to have the full conversation. What we will have time to talk about, though, is hockey in New Orleans. Is this going to be a thing, y'all? When I first heard the announcement or the scuttlebutt surrounding it, I was completely dismissive of it. Bringing the NHL to New Orleans. Well, apparently the governor's in on this, as is Congressman Steve Scalise. They both met with league officials about a potential expansion team in New Orleans. Scalise says New Orleans would be a great addition to the NHL.
Coming off of the heels of probably one of the most successful Super Bowls any city has put on, everybody in the world knows that New Orleans is a world-class city that can host world-class events.
Yeah, they absolutely are a world-class city that can host world-class events. And if we wanted to see a Super Bowl in hockey, we could. Now, hockey does a series just like the NBA does, so that's not in the cards here. And we're not talking about a one-off event. We're also not talking about something that's born and bred in New Orleans, like Mardi Gras or Jazz Fest. Scalise says, back to Congressman Scalise, he says, having the NHL in New Orleans would also boost tourism.
If you're a fan of another team and your team's playing in New Orleans, you're going to have even more incentive to come to New Orleans, and it promotes tourism even more as well.
Man, I'm torn on this one. Because you never want to say no to something that has the potential to be big. And this definitely has the potential to be big. But it also has the potential to be an absolute disaster on a number of different fronts. We've seen in Baton Rouge the Zydeco be a hit. They broke attendance records in year one. Slight drop off as they're in year two. And by the way, they're about 2 weeks away from coming home for the rest of the season. They're on the road right now, but they'll be back in short order. But here in South Louisiana, you didn't grow up playing pickup hockey. You grew up playing three flies in. You grew up playing pickup basketball. You grew up playing baseball. Home run derby with the wiffle ball in the backyard, like Daniel Dickinson mentioned back in our sports segment a little while ago. At no time in Baton Rouge's history were the university lakes frozen over for us to lace up the skates and get out there and have a pickup hockey game. It took a record-breaking weather event for us to see the weather that we saw earlier this year, where the city was on lockdown for a couple days. But that's not the norm. So I have a level of skepticism about hockey in New Orleans. because it's just not born into us. Then you have the flip side of this where New Orleans is not the biggest media market out there. There are bigger media markets that can, have the number of folks just in the city to pack out the arena every night. New Orleans would be the league's second smallest U.S. market, ahead of only Buffalo. Steve Scalise, though, points out that a city very similar to New Orleans in both size and stature has made the NHL a must-see attraction.
New Orleans and Las Vegas are both big entertainment cities. We host big venues and we host the world. And within just a few years, they won the Stanley Cup and they made hockey incredibly successful in the desert.
Now, there's a big difference between there's two big differences right here. The first of which is, while Las Vegas is a big tourism city as New Orleans is a big tourism city, New Orleans is homegrown as well. The flip side of this is Vegas also doesn't have an NBA team who plays at the exact same time. So would you be splitting audience on that front? I don't know. It's going to be a fun conversation to have as it moves forward. Right now, we got to move forward to news. What up? Okay, noon. When do you play St. Paul's? At Catholic? What time? Okay. Paul says, I saw you said JFK Files. Did you already cover it? 8:15. 8:15 is when we're digging in. Byron says, I suggest NOLA make their hockey experience representative of the city. For example, encourage the ladies to lift their tops whenever a NOLA goal is scored. You know what? If you're going to make the NOLA hockey experience representative of the city, I would recommend potholes in the ice. I'm legit nervous, man. Yeah. LAB awards are today. Did you get an email about that? Okay. Yeah, I'm up for 2 awards today.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see why you're nervous, but it's
Well,
awesome.
one
to
of
even just
one
be
of them is
nominated.
election coverage, and I've already won it like 5 times.
Right.
That's the one I'm nervous about. I'm not nervous about the one that I've never won before, because who gives a shit? I've never won it before.
Right.
But like the bar is set.
Yeah.
I'm the election coverage guy.
Hmm.
Like, I don't know. I feel like I'm bitching about nothing, you know?
Yeah, but what's the other category?
Uniquely Louisiana.
Okay. Okay.
And the ice holes. What are you, Roman Moroni?
Oh my goodness.
705 Talk 1073 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Hour 2 coming your way right now. Busy hour this hour. We got Drew Murrell popping in from the city of St. George in our next segment. He is part of the transition team, part of the transition district, and also, he's about to be a councilman. Yesterday, it was announced that State Senator Rick Edmonds is filing a bill to create the school district for the city of St. George. And no surprise there, but the timing is a bit of a surprise. I mean, the folks in St. George are going to go to the polls on March 29th to vote for their home rule charter. Did you want to give it a minute between forming a city and forming a school district? And the flip side of that is, if you had a first grader when you first started this quest to get a school district, you're shopping colleges already. If you're a parent in St. George, your time with your child's education, K through 12, is finite. And speaking as a parent, it goes fast. It goes so fast. We'll talk with Drew Murrell at 7:15. Also coming up this hour, we got Patrick Grimion going to be in at 7:35. Couple topics to cover with old Patty G there. We like to talk business with Patty G, and he pops in one Friday a month. This week, we're going to be talking about, among other things, the 2025 roundtable, a couple of different topics from there, but also the power of social media in a number of different instances. Back on Wednesday, Mark Romig from New Orleans and Company was the speaker at the Rotary Club, and he gave a great presentation about us all being influencers in one way or another. When you hear the term influencer, you think of like the Livy Dunns of the world. But the number of people who made the Super Bowl, the Taylor Swift concert, and Mardi Gras the overwhelming hat trick that it was over the last calendar year. We're going to talk about all of us as influencers. That's part of the conversation with Petty G. Right now, though, we got to get the top stories and trending.
Number 5.
Well, this one came across just a little while ago. We were going to mention as number 5 the filing of the bill to create the school district for St. George, but instead, let's take you out to Denham Springs, where 4 people, including 2 teenagers, were arrested Wednesday. They're allegedly connected to a shooting that happened at the 2024 Bayou Classic. The shooting happened on November 30th during the Classic in New Orleans. A 15-year-old was injured, and after the initial incident, law enforcement said they were searching for 6 different suspects believed to be connected to the crime. Well, this morning, the East Baton Rouge Parish Sheriff's Office and the Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office announced Wednesday's arrest of 4 of those suspects. So 18-year-old Dantrell Sanford and a 16-year-old were both arrested Wednesday for principal to attempted second-degree murder. A second juvenile and Kiana Sanford, the mother of the 3 mentioned suspects, were also arrested for narcotics and firearms-related charges.
Number 4.
Looks like Congressman Clay Higgins is staying. Congressman Clay Higgins. Higgins penned an open letter saying he is opting to not get in the Senate race against Bill Cassidy next year, believing he better serves, in his words, the MAGA America First agenda as a senior representative in the House. By the way, the MAGA America First agenda, the Make America Great Again America First agenda. Yeah. You got America in there twice, buddy. It's not enough.
Number 3.
Governor Jeff Landry signed an executive order declaring a state of emergency regarding the Louisiana Office of Motor Vehicles yesterday. Landry posted on social media that, quote, outdated software is causing crippling delays at the OMV for the public.
Number 2.
State Representative Dixon McMakin wants to revamp BREC. He filed 2 bills yesterday for the upcoming session to achieve that end. The first would reduce the number of commissioners down to 5, with the makeup of that commission being the mayors within the parish. The second would transfer control from the state to EBR.
Number 1.
Police have arrested a suspect in the shooting that happened Wednesday afternoon outside of Our Lady of the Lake that left 58-year-old Patricia Jackson dead. She was shot and killed around 4 p.m. Police said that this was a domestic dispute that spilled out into the public. BRPD later said the suspect, 60-year-old Roland Domino, was arrested shortly after 7 p.m. on the Mississippi River Bridge after dispatch was called for a man walking along the bridge with a gun. All right, John, what you got?
Is AOC going to challenge Chuck Schumer for a Senate seat next year? Well, her name is being tossed around a bit as a possible opponent.
Yeah, her name's being tossed around as a bad idea. I've yet to see anybody who says this is a good idea. And I broke down the difference between the House and the Senate last hour, how one's supposed to be more reactionary, more volatile, and the other's supposed to be smooth and steady. Yeah, smooth and steady is not AOC.
So you're
yeah. And look, I'm breaking this down not from a perspective of a conservative Republican who looks and says this is someone who is remarkably liberal. I look at it through the lens of someone who can, I'll put my politics aside and say, you're not fitting the job description here.
Yeah, and that goes. I think people on her side would say the same.
There is a level of pragmatism that comes along with the Senate.
Right. In other news, Kirsty Coventry was elected the new president of the International Olympic Committee Thursday, making her the first woman to hold the post.
So a 2-time Olympic gold winner in swimming.
There we go.
I never heard of her before yesterday.
Right. But yeah, with what you were listing last hour, it's pretty impressive.
Very much so.
It's really cool.
Very much
really good stuff.
I'm a little bit surprised that the trending stories went from AOC to IOC. I'm a little bit surprised that the International Olympic Committee's never had a woman president before. It's 2025 for crying out loud.
Right.
That's
why I guess it's such a big deal, and it's time, right?
Well,
here we go.
We need to remember from time to time that the International Olympic Committee is international.
Yeah.
And I know we get hung up in our own progress and progressiveness and the like.
Right.
But when compared to the rest of the world, maybe we're not doing so bad.
I wouldn't say so.
And I know somebody's going to point out individual examples on the Facebook live feed, and that's fine. I know there are countries out there that are more socially progressive than we are, but I'm just saying when you take into account the whole world.
Yeah.
Bang. World.
Hey, in other news, President Donald Trump signed an executive order Thursday calling for the dismantling of the U.S. Education Department.
Yep.
Yeah.
Campaign promise.
Yeah.
And it looks like they're going to it already looks like Linda McMahon is going to whittle that thing down to just the bare bones. It's by the time they're all said and done, there'll be more members of Jodeci than the U.S. Department of Education. But they can't dismantle the department. They can't disband the department from the executive branch. That literally takes an act of Congress. So a lot of shakeups, a lot of movement, a lot of movement.
That it is.
Oh, when does it slow down?
It never does, right?
No,
it never does.
I constantly feel like George Jetson at the end of the cartoon. I'm on that dog treadmill trying to hang on for dear life.
That's it. You're not holding on alone, though.
No,
we're all in this together.
Nope. What you doing for lunch today? Might I suggest P.F. Chang's? If you are celebrating Lent, if you're honoring your Lenten promises and giving up on meat on Fridays, they have some fantastic seafood options. They have a salmon dish that is so good, so good. Got a little bit of sweet heat to it. little bit of sweet heat to it. Of course, they've got the dynamite shrimp as well, which is beyond compare. You get the shrimp in with the peppers, and then if you want to mix in that, get some lo mein to mix it in with that. Oh, chef's kiss to that one. Now, of course, if you don't abstain from meat on Fridays, they've got you covered. They've got the chicken lettuce wraps. They've got they got the whole menu. So many different, fantastically prepared Asian inspired dishes, and all the ambiance of and that upscale atmosphere, the service that's beyond compare. You know where to find them. Off Corporate Boulevard in Town Center. Look for the Giant Golden Horses, P.F. Chang's. Hey. Oh, he's here. So I've set the table for the topic a couple times. Trying to get on both angles. Huh? Are we back already? You got to brought this. That's too much dead mouse, man. That's the third dead mouse this morning. Yeah. You good? You good? No, you filled it with a bunch of stuff that I like, but like a lot of yeah. 7:17. Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane are rolling right along. So it was announced yesterday. State Senator Rick Edmonds is filing some legislation to create an independent school district for the city of St. George. Joining us now to talk about this from the old transition team there, about to be a councilman out that way. We got Drew Murrell in studio. How are you, sir?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
No, glad to have you on. Glad to be talking about this.
Absolutely.
I know because
this segment's been 14 years in the making.
Is it 14?
Almost 15 since we started the St. George effort.
11.
No. It's been a while.
Okay. All right. Okay. Then I need to correct everything that I said to start off, because when you talk about a sense of urgency here, what I was saying was if you had a first grader when this started, you're shopping colleges right now. That's not true.
Well, I heard that coming in, and to your point, if you ever listen to Dustin Yates or Patty Cook, two of the people that have been here since the beginning, we absolutely measure time by the ages of our children from the beginning of the process to the end. Like Patty Cook's kids are grown adults,
right?
They have they're out of the house.
Yeah.
So and they started off and they were in elementary school when this started. So long journey.
So, okay. It's a long journey, and the journey's not going to be over until the school district is formed.
That's
because that was the initial goal.
That's right.
That was the initial goal. That being said, though, let me play devil's advocate a little bit. You pivoted the goal to form a city. And I know you're forming the city to form the district. I get that. All right. But you pivoted the goal to form the city. Now that you have the city, shouldn't you take a little bit of time to learn how to run a city first?
Well, let's start from that point. We didn't pivot to form a city. We were specifically told if we wanted a school district, go form a city. Now, the problem with that statement was that did drive the organizers to start looking at that process and say, "Ooh, a school district's not the only new thing we need."
Right? No, but that caused the pivot, Drew. That was you were told you had to form a city. You were told you had to make.
Somebody believes that is part of a school district process. It's not, but that was the belief at the time. And so under that auspice, we go and create the city.
Yes.
Why would we wait any longer? We made promises. And again, going back to Patty Cook and Norman Browning and Dustin Yates and Jim Talbot, this group has been doing this for 14 years. Why would we wait any longer?
Because when the goalposts moved, now you've got a whole other set of responsibilities. And all the residents of St. George, those who have school children or those who don't, are now reliant upon the city of St. George to get it right first.
Yeah, right. And look, I don't disagree. It's a huge process to create a city. And we've always said, in fact, I've said it for a long time now, that it is a completely separate process. You're going to see a different leadership involved in the school process than you see in the city process. It's a different taxing structure. It's a different leadership group. It's not a mayor. It's a superintendent. All those processes will be separate.
Okay.
But it was important from the city's standpoint to show the public, hey, we made you promises. And one of those promises, we were going to get you a school district. And we can do that. We've been fortunate from Senator Bodie White to Senator Rick Edmonds to Representative Emily Chenevert. We've had wonderful leadership with the St. George group and representatives who are ready to bring this forward. The climate has changed in education, not just in EBR, but the state. We now
how about the nation?
We've got a superintendent for the schools in Dr. Cade Brumley, who is moving us forward in education, being creative. We now have a governor with a much different mindset on education than we suffered through for 8 years.
Oh yeah.
We now have a local leadership group. We're not working against EBR Parish in this bill. We're going to be working with them. To move this forward. It's time for better education for everybody.
What does the new school district, and I know it's early in the conversation, but with everything possibly on the table, what will the new school district look like? What schools would be moving from EBR? What schools might be coming around that would be new?
Well, so you look at a standpoint of when you get schools is such a wide category now, because it's not just your public schools, but also your private schools and your charter schools are involved in that process. So first and foremost, the boundaries of this school district will be coterminous with the city of St. George. Those are the boundaries for St. George, the city. They'll be the same boundaries for the school system. So that's
is coterminous a vocabulary word that'll be taught in St. George School District?
Well, I mean, with the high level of education, if we're as successful as our neighbors at creating school districts, then probably that'll be an elementary vocabulary term.
Yeah, that's like a 750 SAT word right there. All right, I distracted you. My apologies. Go dive back in.
So then you look at what does the school district look like, and what we believe is it whatever you categorize it or call it, from private, public, and charter. What's important is good. There is good in all three of those categories. There is bad in all three of those categories. So what's important from the St. George standpoint, and I believe the EBR Parish standpoint now, is that we develop good schools, hold schools accountable, and eliminate bad schools, and do something different with those instead of allowing them to persist for decades. Let's do something different. I think that's what you're looking at. If you're in the boundaries of St. George, you're going to be able to pick the school that you want that's best for your child in St. George.
Okay.
And you're not going to be stuck in a failing school system. And that's going to force and require these three categories of schools to compete and provide options that the people want, as opposed to you're stuck going to that school because.
We're talking with Drew Murrell. He's on the transition team for the city of St. George. He's also are you physically on the ballot on March 29th just by yourself?
No.
It's just done.
Yep.
All right.
I'll be sworn in July 1st.
Future councilman.
Thank you.
Drew Murrell with us talking about the proposed school district, independent school district for the city of St. George. So the legislation that's being put out there, walk us through a timeline of let's do quick as possible, then, plan B if quick as possible doesn't happen.
Well, so when this bill passes, and I believe that's going to happen, you're looking at a statewide ballot in November of this year. and that would be to create the constitutional amendment or approve the constitutional amendment that officially creates the school district. The language of the bill you'll see probably sometime early April.
Okay.
It'll be comprehensive, and this is something we're working with EBR Parish on. Senator Edmonds is talking with EBR Parish to make sure that we create a bill that not only creates the St. George Community School District, but also helps EBR and addresses their concerns and issues regarding everything from liability to assets to the physical structures. All those things are going to be a discussion and a cooperative endeavor with EBR Parish, including some school options that if you're in St. George, you'll be able to enjoy in EBR Parish. So you're not necessarily going to lose that option either.
Wait, walk me down that path.
Well,
real
for
quick.
example, in the beginning, in the 2013 school bill that we passed that created the Southeast EBR Parish Community School District, there was language in there that said if your child was in high school at a magnet program, they could matriculate and finish in that magnet program.
Okay.
Central had offered the same thing, but the EBR Parish school leadership at the time had said, no, we're not going to allow that.
Okay.
But now the changes in education are making this much more realistic and viable. And not only would it be your high school kid, if your child has started school in EBR Parish, they would be able to matriculate through the EBR school system.
So even they're first graders.
Well, I mean, because there's, because that was one of the concerns. As soon as we said your child can finish high school at Baton Rouge High, somebody goes, well, their sister is in middle school at Southeast Middle or whatever, Sherwood Middle Magnet or Flame or whatever.
Right.
What about them?
Right.
Fine. We want you to get the best education possible, and this bill is going to make it possible. We're not here to hurt your child. We're just here to help all the other children as well.
Right. How you pay for it?
Well, I mean, the same way the schools are always paid for. There's MFP dollars out there. There's state and federal funding. It's not going to be any different than before. I believe the last time I saw an analysis of the St. George School District was back right before the election of 2019. It said the St. George school system would probably have the third most money of any school system in the state. So that's probably a good way to start. And I think if you look, it's what the success of our neighbors has shown us is the amount per child is not directly attributable to the success of that child. If you look at EBR Parish and what they spend per kid, it's thousands more than what they're spending in Central and some of our neighboring areas.
Yeah.
So the dollars per child aren't necessarily what matters. And I think some of the other things you're seeing from a statewide standpoint that will affect St. George, money follows the child. It's starting. It'll be underway by the time we get our school district started. Your money is going to go with you. So yes, education is a fundamental right, but that doesn't mean they get to dictate where that right occurs. And money follows the child is going to mean that you can go to public, private, charter, and your money will go with you. And that makes a lot of sense.
I want to go back to if everything goes to plan, the quickest this thing rolls out.
So you get a constitutional amendment end of November. That'll be on the ballot for that. Pass that, and then you're back looking at the taxing mechanism portion of it, which would ultimately result in an EBR Parish vote. So you're looking sometime 2026.
Okay,
realistic.
The 26 to 27 school year.
Correct.
Yeah,
correct. That'd be realistic.
Would have to coincide with the school year. You're not going to change to a district mid-year.
That's right. So you got a couple of things. You've got a school calendar that you really don't want to upset in the middle of it. It wouldn't make sense for either party to do that.
Right.
Then you've got to have that cooperative endeavor agreement with EBR Parish to set all those parameters. So instead of us fighting each other like we've been doing for a long time now, this really truly will be a partnership moving forward.
We got Drew Murrell in with us from the city of St. George, part of the transition team, and no surprise in that they got their city, and now they're going back looking for the school district that they had originally intended to go after. Let's talk politics.
Okay.
Because this is going to involve a 2/3 vote within the state legislature, and then if I'm not mistaken, a statewide vote of the people.
That's correct. That's part of the constitutional amendment process.
Yes. So yeah, exactly. When y'all voted for your city, it was within the city limits.
Correct.
Okay. This is different now. How do you make the rest of the state care?
Well, I think from the standpoint, if you're similar to St. George, and we get calls from a lot of places that would like to follow the St. George process and incorporate. So if you're one of those areas, then you absolutely need to see us be successful because we're a roadmap for your future.
Okay.
I think if you're from another area and you see a group that wants to form their own school system, why would you get in the way of that? To that point, I don't really see a lot of resistance. And I think from the standpoint of legislative representatives, it's a local bill. It's a group of people who've done everything they've been told to do legally for a long period of time now. And this is the final part of the process, and they're all well aware of it. I mean, You can't avoid St. George in Louisiana, and I don't think it's going to affect us at the ballot box.
Yeah, the local bill part is actually the part that kind of gives me pause here because there's going to be a machine stacked up against you for sure.
I don't know. Honestly, no. I don't think that's the case anymore. I think the dynamics of the school system in St. George have changed, and now everyone's looking at the best path forward.
Okay.
Instead of trying to, look, we've had a change in EBR parish administrative leadership that's changed that mindset. On the state level, we've got a change in governor. That's changed that mindset.
Mhm.
So I don't think we're running into walls anymore. I think we're opening doors.
We got about a minute left with Drew Murrell from the city of St. George. Talk about the bills that will be the bills that haven't been drafted yet, but the bills that will be in this legislative session that would aim to form a St. George independent school district. As far as those that would live within St. George, those that are already on board with this, messaging is going to be important as well, not just with the public later on, but throughout this legislative session. How do you get the ground game going here?
Well, that's from the standpoint of, again, if we're cooperating and we have an agreement in place with EBR parish, I think that's a great step. It shows everyone that we're on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
I think some of the provisions talking about, who would be upset about having a St. George school system? Who's going to be upset in St. George?
In St. George?
Yeah.
Nobody.
Exactly.
Nobody. And that's where we come
from
back
the parish standpoint. You have to look at EBR parish having to close a bunch of schools due to declining enrollment and population. And we're willing to take 7 of those off your hands. So they're able to consolidate their students into their schools without having to close additional schools. So I think we're helping keep their facilities open. I think it's a partnership.
He is Drew Murrell with the city of St. George. We always appreciate the time.
Thank you, Brian.
Here comes news. Kill the mics. 737 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. We got Patty G in the house. Patrick Gremion, host of the Patty G Show with us. How are you, sir?
I'm well. How are you, sir?
I'm doing very well. It's a cold start to the morning, and I see you still don't have a proper jacket. You still don't have a jacket with sleeves.
I don't. And this morning I was regretting it.
Yeah.
You were keeping me out there for at least 30 minutes waiting.
Why do you start by lying to people?
Realized I didn't have the appropriate amount of sleeves on this morning. But my core is nice and warm, so don't you worry, Brian. I'm here.
Sure. Why not?
Core.
Absolutely. We talk business every time you're in, and we talk about different business items affecting the capital area. This month is going to take us to the roundtable.
Yes.
And you shared the contents of said roundtable with me. Can we start off with answering this question? What do you see as the most pressing issue for the capital region in 2025, and why do you feel it will be critical for us as a community? If you were tasked with leading us through this issue, what direction would you go? First of all, let's back it up. The roundtable was what?
The roundtable was a collective of CEOs talking through different topics, different questions, and giving their thoughts on what the capital area has and what it needs and where they see it within their organization, what they're doing to make an impact, and also their plans to solve these problems or attempt to solve the problems, paving a way for the future employees and businesses in the community.
Okay, so 4 answers to the question about the biggest issue facing the area. One of them is, they say, healthcare, economic development, media, and technology. It goes on from there. The first 2 words out of there are healthcare.
Right.
So I don't think that's the biggest issue facing our community.
I don't know if it's necessarily the healthcare that's available or provided, but one thing that's pressing for small businesses is the offerings of healthcare within the insurance space.
Okay.
And having policies for small groups.
Okay, but can that be handled locally?
I don't think so.
That's kind of my point.
Yeah.
If you're answering the question, what do you see as the most pressing issue for the capital region in 2025? Shouldn't the answer be something that can be handled within the capital region?
I would hope that we can handle within the capital region.
So, yeah, but we don't create policy on that level here locally. Right. That kicks up to state and federal. So I'm not being dismissive, but I'm being dismissive.
Right. And I think it's hopefully the answer was there to spark a conversation at the appropriate levels.
Sure. The second person answered about the importance of building a skilled and adaptable workforce. That's valid, but let's put a pin on that one to come back to it in a second. The third answer is when young people graduate from college, they often leave. Brain drain.
Carlo McDonald, that answer that he gave and the in-depth response of people leaving after graduation to go find a new city and then coming back to raise a family.
Okay, tell you what, read the answer in its entirety so we can give it its due credit.
So he said, in my 30 years of business in Baton Rouge, one thing has remained consistent. When people graduate from college, they often leave seeking excitement from other cities, but inevitably may return to Baton Rouge when they start families because it's a fantastic place to raise children and build a life. That's why I've stayed here despite opportunities elsewhere, including places like Silicon Valley. The challenge is convincing young professionals right out of the college that Baton Rouge can be a cool place to live.
Okay. My answer on this has evolved as a parent.
Okay.
All right.
Same.
Okay, start with you. How has your answer on that evolved as a parent?
So before I had kids, it was me trying to figure out what the city landscape was and figure out where I could find my place in it. Since I've had kids, it's more about I need to make sure what I'm doing today is going to put them in a better place when the time comes 10, 20, 30 years later down the road.
Put them in a better place. How?
In a way that whenever they're growing up, they see us traveling throughout their years, getting to experience different cities, but recognizing those are great places to visit. However, I want to have roots here. And so putting them in a better place to say, without a doubt, they want to live here, they want to raise a family here and continue on the tradition.
Okay, but this is what he's talking about, though, is they'll come back to raise a family, but he wants them to stay here the entire time. That's where my position on this has evolved as a parent. I've got a daughter going to college out of state next year. Okay. And that is, well, out of state wasn't by design, but out of town was.
So you wanted her to go out of town?
I wanted her to leave the nest. Absolutely. Blaze your own trail.
Okay.
Find your way in the world. Go out and conquer the world.
Fair.
Come home. Home is here for you.
Right.
Whenever. And it will always be home. Whether you're here or not, it's still home. But go out there and kick the world in the pants.
Right. And I think his comment was more of when they graduate, they leave and go find a job elsewhere. Getting an education outside of the state is one thing. Getting a job outside of the state is another.
Okay. And that's the part that I'm failing to understand.
Okay.
All right. I grew up an hour down the road from here.
Mhm.
All right. I didn't go very far, but I went away.
Yeah, you went an hour.
Okay. It's an hour. It's you don't go home every night. I'm not making that commute. I know some people do make that commute. It's awful.
I don't get it.
But I moved away. I have not gone back to Covington. Probably not going to go back. I might retire there. I don't know. But like,
Are you talking about retirement?
Oh no, I'm never going to retire. I work in radio, man. It takes money to retire. But my point is, like, did I somehow betray Covington by not returning? I met my wife at LSU. We found our home here. We found our niche here. We found our way in the world here. We've made this our home now. Like, Ed, did I do something wrong? Did she do something wrong by not going back to Harahan?
No, it's a fair question.
Right. Why would my priority as a parent be making sure that there's walls up around Baton Rouge and my kids don't leave?
So that's, I think, the distinction. I think that I'm not trying to say we put up walls around Baton Rouge to keep them here. I'm saying we have enough opportunities that they can find whatever they're looking for within the area. Not necessarily you have to stay here because that's where home is. But
I want to change the they.
Okay.
Where they can find their way in the world here. I don't want to recruit my kids to stay here. I want to take all the kids from Lafayette, from Shreveport, from Jackson, Mississippi, from Nashville. I want those kids, when they blaze their trail, to find their way into here.
Okay.
Rather than making sure mine stay, I want this place to be attractive to somebody new.
So you're more on the attractive train than on the retention train.
Recruitment over retention.
Okay.
Yes. Why? That's how it's evolved to me as a parent. Is like, if you're going to find your way go out, leave the nest.
Yeah, right.
We are Abby, Kerrigan, Abby, and James. We are their nest. Okay, leave the nest. Now, if you're raising kids in Birmingham, Alabama, Baton Rouge is not your nest. They're going to leave their nest. I want them coming here.
Okay.
Is that?
So then, once they're here, do you have an expectation for them to stay and raise a family?
Yes. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So you want the folks here to go out and plant roots elsewhere,
and then come back home to raise a family.
Okay. So you want to boomerang people from Baton Rouge, but make sure that people coming from elsewhere don't leave.
Correct. That's absolutely correct. Yes.
Okay.
Did I lose you there?
No. You didn't lose me there. I'm just trying to follow you. You're like, you can go out from here, but then you better come back. But if you're coming from somewhere else, don't you dare go back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If you're from here, this is your home.
Right.
If you're not from here, this is your home now.
So, but what changes the perspective in Birmingham, saying your home shouldn't be in Birmingham?
That's their problem. That's not my problem. That's totally their problem. I don't have to deal with that. Can't solve them all, man. I'm gonna fix the ones here. So.
Right. We've got the better culture, right?
Yeah. There's another answer to the question that involves our workforce as well. And I think the fact that two of the people who answered this question, half of the people who were featured said workforce. What do we need to be doing for the workforce if it's considered that the most pressing issue in the capital region in 2025 is workforce? What are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? What do we need to do more of?
I think what we doing right as far as people recognize Baton Rouge is a place of culture and a place of people and a place of community whenever they're looking for somewhere to go. And when I actually asked them the question on the show, what do you love about it? They say they love the people. And so two of those folks answered they are doing what they can to develop a culture inside their organization where they can pave a path for young professionals and say, here's your roadmap. Here's your place in the organization for years to come. Not just your first 5 years. Here's what we're going to do with you. It's let's see how we can build out your career path for long-term success and not just try to get you through so you can take it as a stepping stone and go from this organization, leverage the position and go to another. How do we make you happy and satisfied within our program and within our company. And two of the people said that they see the culture that they're building is a part of that.
Culture is hard to build.
It is.
Because it's this weird walk of having to be organic while at the same time having to be molded.
Right.
Those two things don't go together.
You're trying to be organic, but yet you're like, how we're creating it, and then we want to just kind of instill it on you.
Right. Right. It doesn't grow on its own.
Right.
It definitely has to be cultivated. So another part of that equation is when we're talking about developing the workforce, you got to talk about what type of workforce you're looking to develop.
Agreed.
We need to be all things to all people. We're a big enough city to where we're not a factory town. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not everybody who lives in Baton Rouge works at Callahan brake pads.
Right.
You know, that's Tommy Boy's gig, not ours. So it's like.
So then how do we showcase all the different opportunities here, I would say is the question.
Yeah.
How do we get out there and say, here are all the businesses and opportunities you have within the capital region? And it's not just the brake pad shop. It's not just this one factory. You can actually find anything in any type of industry or profession you want to go into.
We see a number of different, we'll call it industries. We see a number of different areas of business where you're capped out in Baton Rouge. You get to a certain level up. You get to a certain level up the corporate ladder, and then you got to start seeking elsewhere. I think that's one of our biggest areas of struggle.
So corporate headquarters for large organizations,
right? Look at Canes. Look at walk-ons. Look at when you get to a certain level, you pack up, and okay, now we have to have our headquarters out of Dallas. Canes is still ours.
Mm-hmm.
It's still a Baton Rouge company through and through.
Mm-hmm.
But we got to farm things out to bigger places where they do it better.
Yeah.
How do we work on the upper end?
I think that's a fair question, and part of it is getting people to attract those folks from out of town. How do we get big C-suite executives to say, oh yeah, Baton Rouge is the place I want to spend? And part of that is building out activities, building out things for people to go and do outside of just a bar here and there.
Yeah. All right. We got Your Money Now coming up in 30 seconds. Got to remind you, we are always live on Facebook Live, of course, YouTube Live as well. And we've got the Talk 1073 mobile app where you can listen to us. We've got talk1073.com where you can find our content on demand. Any interview that we do here ends up on demand at talk1073.com. And all of that is courtesy of the folks at Lake Urgent Care. Lake Urgent Care, walk-in care for minor illnesses and injuries. Your Money Now is coming up. Then we'll check traffic. Then we'll get right back into it. Patty Cheese, and we're talking business with Patrick Grimion. We continue next.
So Grimion spelled with an E, G-R-E.
Pierce says it is mostly state government and healthcare. I was about to get that. Which hard to attract business and people. Bars are all we have. Drink in town with a football habit.
That's a fair point. So what do we do to curb it and get outside of just being a bar drinking town? People thought Topgolf was the solution.
Nobody thought Topgolf was a solution.
You remember the buzz when Topgolf was
cool
made?
to have.
Yeah. So what else is cool to have that other cities, big cities have?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Like what else does Dallas have that's attractive from a recreational standpoint, from an entertainment standpoint that we don't have? What does New York have outside of snowball fights in the street? I mean,
Jackson Square had snowball fights in the street.
We had snowball fights on Webb Park when we had Snowmageddon this year.
Did you?
Oh yeah.
We have say all true. Now, what do we do other than shrug our shoulders and say it is what it is?
Yeah.
I don't think we're gonna get to a second question. And I don't think we're gonna get to those mom and daughter influencers either.
I know,
bro. You should have been at Rotary on Wednesday.
What happened?
Mark Romig from New Orleans and Company was a speaker.
Okay.
And he was talking about influencers. And about how everyone played a role in the recent hat trick in New Orleans. Taylor Swift, Super Bowl, Mardi Gras, all in a row like that. He talked about the number of impressions, not from just like major influencers, but from all of us. He's right. And it's the trickle down effect is so much greater than even what he saw, because he was just talking about like Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah.
I can't get 3 TikTok videos in without seeing something from New Orleans. It's amazing.
So I had a very interesting conversation last night with someone about how do we take our culturally curated assets and monetize them. Meaning, look at what the Applebee's most recent commercial is. Talking about their Big Easy dinner menu.
Oh, yeah. Shit all over that. I'm not going to Applebee's for New Orleans food.
Right. But they're trying to leverage the brand that we've created as a culture. How do we get it and monetize
We
it?
have a culture problem here.
Like
What is the culture of Baton Rouge?
We're like the second best city is what people view us as.
To do what?
Because of New Orleans.
To do what? The culture of Baton Rouge is football.
Yeah, LSU.
So why has that not been monetized? Somebody tried to create the football network years ago. That was a total debacle. It came out at the same time as the NFL network, so one obviously reigns supreme.
Right.
Um,
But then what do we do for the other part of the year where we're not playing football?
we have kids sports year round.
Well, I know we have kids
Huge.
sports. And it's a huge
overwhelmingly dominant of what we are. Well, like who we are is all of that. But like, if one of the biggest problems we've had in Baton Rouge, and I don't know how to remedy this, we don't know our history. We know very little about our history. New Orleans, for better or worse, embraces the shit out of their history. But I couldn't tell you the history of. I can tell you the history of this building. But we got Raven Horse right next door. You don't find that mildly amusing that the first hospital you build the funeral home right next door? The morgue, our basement was the morgue. I mean, you didn't even just push them over, then just push the gurney over, right?
There wasn't a tunnel built underneath the street so they could easily transport those bodies?
We should have built a tunnel. I mean, we have a freaking basement. We're at the top of the hill here. We can have a basement.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't know why we didn't.
Yeah,
But-
like we're in the Romaine building, which was the first skyscraper. It's on the front of the building, and I know that's an argument we'll have and have had. But
The Watermark Hotel is the first skyscraper.
what
The
you was
Romaine building is not a skyscraper.
it's on the front of
It
the building.
does not scrape the sky.
It's on the National Historical Register.
What kind of short man do you have to be in order to call that a skyscraper?
6 stories, man. We're
Six-
we're scraping the sky.
6 stories does not scrape the sky. You are not affecting flight patterns.
At the time, they might have been.
There's no flight.
I agree. We need to know our history.
$7:55 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Oh, we got Patty G in the house talking about biggest issue facing Baton Rouge in 2025, and we were talking workforce. We were talking about whether or not our kids leave the nest and come home, and Patrick, the conversation, and especially during the break right there, evolved into we have a culture problem in Baton Rouge.
Yeah, a defining
Like
what our culture is.
the conversation went from developing a workforce to what kind of workforce do you want to develop to what is your sales pitch to attract workforce to Baton Rouge? And we have a culture problem. If I were to ask you, what's the culture of Baton Rouge? What's your answer?
The answer ultimately came to we're football. We're LSU. We're a sports town for LSU.
Yeah, not even. I would narrow it down to is football 1st, a little bit of baseball second, a lot of
Women's basketball third.
no. See, that's not even on the map.
Really?
No, it is the fact that Kim Mulkey's winning, and that's
Okay.
great. But if you removed that from the equation, like it was removed 4 or 5 years ago,
Okay.
it doesn't affect Baton Rouge at all. If you remove LSU football from the equation, it affects the economy.
Oh, in a serious way.
If you go over Burbank and Gardier and you take traction away, that's a huge hit. Youth sports is huge in Baton Rouge, but you can't call that your city's culture.
Yeah, come here for
What
your
is our
kids to play
culture?
sports.
And what I don't understand is like we have the history of Baton Rouge to have a very well-rounded culture here, but we don't embrace our history.
Yeah.
Like I know the history of this building. Couldn't tell you the history about many other buildings around.
Right.
I know you claim to work in the first skyscraper in Baton Rouge.
I don't claim it's posted on the front of the building.
It's a lie. It's not a
It's-
skyscraper.
Then talk to the National Historical Register.
It's 6 stories, man.
I'm just saying, at the time, Brian. At
Okay,
the
but
time.
isn't that emblematic of the problem of Baton Rouge is not thinking big enough? If you're going to call 6 stories a skyscraper, you're not dreaming large.
So then what's the definition of a skyscraper?
One that scrapes the sky. It's
All
right
right.
there in the name. Some of these are self-evident.
Then define scraping the sky. At what height do you consider the skyscraper?
There's probably definitions to that, but I don't want to get too far off because we only got 2 minutes left in the segment here. But defining the culture of Baton Rouge, I don't know that we can. You look, we've been
How can we not? We're the capital.
I know.
How can we not? Why were we chosen as the capital?
We were chosen as the capital because business didn't get done when the capital was New Orleans.
Okay.
When New Orleans was the state's capital, everyone went down there and just got hammered all the time.
So we were the dry place to do work.
Hang on. We're not done yet. They moved the capital from New Orleans to Donaldsonville, and then just nobody went. And that's how it settled in Baton Rouge after that. We were a city that people would come to and business would get done. Why is that not still the sales pitch? Why is that still not part of the equation to say that for over 100 years now, some of the most colorful characters from around the state make this their temporary home throughout part of the year in order to get business done? We can do business like nobody else in the world. We're not too far down the party hole.
Right.
And we're not on the boring end either. I mean, I want to be all 3 bears about it, but we're kind of just right.
Yeah. So then how do we get that out there? What platform do we use to promote it, to show people we are Goldilocks?
This is going to walk us up to our influencer conversation, and we don't have enough time for it.
No.
We got 40 seconds left.
We do.
So I guess we're kind of teasing the next segment.
I think so.
All right.
They'll have to tune in.
Yeah, but you only come around once a month now.
Yeah, but this is a condensed month for us. I'm back in 2 weeks.
All right. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Okay. Well, that's where we're going to have to pick up the conversation. So he's Patrick Gremion, host of the Patty G Show. We always appreciate the time.
Love being here, Brian.
Thank you. We got economist Scott Burns coming up at 8:05. We got Dr. Jonathan Earle at 8:15. Gonna be talking JFK Files there. And then we got Foodie Friday. Stick around. Right now, news, traffic, and weather. We're coming up on 8 o'clock at Talk 107.3 FM. Kill the mics, please. It's Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Hour 3 coming your way right now. We got a jam-packed hour, y'all. Dr. Jonathan Earle going to be on the hotline in our next segment. We're going to be talking about the JFK Files there. What have we learned? What's still out there that we don't know yet? Are the conspiracy theories going to be squashed here? Or does it only fuel the flames? Dr. Jonathan Earle is with the LSU Honors College. He's LSU Honors College Dean, Professor Jonathan Earle. He is an expert in U.S. political history and conspiracy theories. We'll get his analysis in our next segment. Right now, though, we want to welcome in economist Scott Burns. It's been a minute since he's been on with us, so time to welcome him back. Scott, how are you, man?
I'm doing pretty good, but I got to admit, I'm a little bit nervous because I think I saw that you have the JFK expert coming on after me to talk about the JFK files.
I absolutely do.
I don't know if you've had a chance to read them yet, but I was pretty shocked because the fact that Ted Cruz's father and George H.W. Bush actually were on the grassy knoll just blew my mind.
So I have not had a chance to sit down and read any of it yet. All I've been able to read is the reporting on it.
Okay, well, you'll get a chance to talk about it. I don't know if you can detect the sarcasm in my comment there, but that's going to be a really interesting conversation. I'm fascinated to listen to it.
Well, and that's the thing, though. I want to break through what's real and what's not. Growing up on the North Shore, there were nothing but stories, man. Nothing but stories. If you watched the 1990 JFK movie with Kevin Costner.
Oh, it's a classic.
Yes. Well, the Cuban training camps that were on the North Shore, I mean, that was right behind a restaurant called Sal and Judy's in Lacombe.
Wow.
So, but what actually went on behind the fences, we don't know, because you went from the highway all the way up to Lake Pontchartrain. You couldn't see that far back and whatnot. You heard things, you heard stories and rumors and whatnot, but I mean, there's a lot to unpack for sure.
Well, I think the only thing more exciting than the JFK assassination and talking about that is probably talking about tariffs and economics, right?
So I know you're thinking you're being sarcastic, but you're spot on, because the JFK stuff is fun. The tariffs affect my wallet. So let's dive in. Speaking of what's real and what's just being talked about, what's real when it comes to tariffs right now?
So what's real is that they are going up, and we are in the midst of a trade war, quote unquote, that is a lot bigger in magnitude than the one that we saw back in 2018, 2019. You remember probably hearing about that from Trump's first term. And even though we did see a hike in tariffs then, the magnitude of these proposed tariff hikes are 3 to 5 times bigger. So it's going to be a much bigger impact. And one of the things that economists like to stress, it's kind of interesting with tariffs. It's one of those issues where politicians almost uniformly love tariffs. Whether you're talking about Bernie Sanders or Donald Trump or Joe Biden, they tend to love tariffs, and they're very, very popular in Washington, D.C., across the aisle. But they're extremely unpopular amongst economists. And the biggest reason is because economists like to say that tariff is just another word for tax. And even though politicians like to tell us that tariffs are a tax on foreigners, if we put a tariff on Mexico and Canada, then it's Mexico and Canadians that are paying that tariff to us. That's not actually how tariffs work. Tariffs are a tax primarily on American consumers because the IRS can't go and collect money from people in Canada and Mexico. Right. What actually happens whenever tariffs are imposed is that we pay them indirectly as consumers in the form of higher prices. Because now if Walmart wants to import a trampoline from Japan or Canada or Mexico or China, now they have to pay a higher price to bring that product to market, and they're going to have to, in order to stay in business, pass on those higher costs to us, the consumer. So tariffs are just another word for taxes, and they're a tax on American consumers primarily.
But they're also an equalizer, and the goal here being, and this is why politicians love them, the goal there being, if you put that tariff on a Japanese trampoline, now it's going to cost as much to buy the Japanese trampoline as it does the American-made trampoline, and the American-made trampoline creates jobs.
Correct. That's the way that politicians like to view it. There's an old economist I love, a French economist named Frederick Bastiat, who talked about something called the parable of the seen and the unseen. How what politicians like is they like to be able to point to things that are visible and say, look at these jobs I created. They would love to, for instance, Donald Trump would love to be able to go to a trampoline factory in Ohio and say, look at these jobs I created, because since we put a big tariff on Japanese trampolines, we're now making them here in the United States. But what he's neglecting is the unseen. And the job of an economist like me is to look at the unseen and unintended consequence of policies. And what would happen in that case would be that we'd be paying a lot higher prices for trampolines if we were just making them domestically. The whole reason that we trade with other countries is because there are some things that they can produce at a lower cost and more efficiently than we can. And there are some things that we can produce at lower cost than they can. And so if we did wind up creating 1,000 jobs at a trampoline factory in Ohio because of tariffs, then what they'd be neglecting is that we'd be losing a lot more than that. Many more thousands more jobs would be lost in America because now American consumers would be paying much higher prices for those goods like trampolines, which means you've got less income left over to buy other products. And the tricky thing about that is it's very tough as an economist to point to what specific jobs and factories were shut down because of those higher costs and because of the tariffs. That's why there's such a politically popular thing to do.
Historically speaking, have we been able to get a read one way or the other of tariffs working or not working? Because when you look at the overall economy, there's so many different individual variables that I don't know that you could pin down. Like the same tariffs that gave us the Roaring '20s potentially gave us a Great Depression. Like, is there a way to pin down good versus bad? A sweet spot within that sort of thing.
The way that I like to frame it is, even though I'm an economist and we almost universally believe that tariffs are a bad thing, anything that restricts trade and reduces your options as a consumer, as a producer, is typically not going to be good for the economy. But what I like to say is that even though there's no good economic argument for tariffs, there's never been a case in recorded history where tariffs made a nation richer than they otherwise would have been. You can make an argument that, okay, well, the United States used to use tariffs primarily to collect revenue back in its early days, but one, they weren't extremely high tariffs, and two, our government was 1/50th of the size it is today, and tariffs were the easiest way to collect revenue. It wasn't the case of our founding fathers, who really liked Adam Smith, and they believed very much in free trade, many of them. They didn't argue for tariffs because they said it would make our economy richer. They basically did it because it was the easiest way to collect tax revenue for a federal government that was a tiny fraction of the size that ours is today.
We're talking with economist Scott Burns about the trade wars that are bubbling up right now and the tariffs that are out there. One of the things that President Trump has said is that the tariffs that he's imposing is just kind of level an already unbalanced playing field. Have we been getting a raw deal up until now?
Well, that's one area where I can defend him. I think it is very dumb when other countries put very high tariffs on our goods. And if the ultimate effect of this trade war and these harsh negotiations was to lead every country, including the United States, to lower or get rid of their tariffs, then I could support that as a negotiating tactic. The tricky thing is I don't really know if that's necessarily what President Trump believes, because the one kind of through line through his entire political life dating back to the 1980s when he was talking about politics is that he's always loved tariffs. He's changed his position on dozens and dozens of things, but he's always had the mindset that we're getting ripped off by other countries because we run trade deficits with most other countries, meaning we buy more from them than they buy from us. And therefore, we need to restrict trade with them and try to produce everything here. That's what's wrong. That's what, as an economist, I would disagree with, that kind of idea that we should make everything ourselves, because it's neglecting all the jobs that we'd lose because we'd be stuck making things that we're not good at and much lower wage, lower quality jobs, when we could instead just trade with other nations that are better than us at making those things. And we'd wind up having better jobs here because then we could actually specialize in the things that we're good at. So if President Trump deep down is a free trader and he's only doing this as a negotiation tactic, I can maybe support that. But look, you and I have probably played poker. To me, if he's bluffing, if he does not actually want to impose these tariffs, then why would you be threatening 10% hikes in tariffs or even 25% hikes? Why not go all in? Why not tell China, hey, if you don't get rid of these stupid tariffs you have on our goods, then we're just going to cut off trade next year. No more trade coming in. Nothing can come from China to San Francisco and Los Angeles and to our harbors. To me, if it's a negotiation tactic, I'd rather he be very aggressive than kind of make these marginal changes, because all that we're seeing now is that whenever you're kind of tinkering with tariffs, countries are going to retaliate. And that means that both countries are going to be made worse off when they both start hiking tariffs in tandem.
Does it help or hurt the fact that the countries that have to respond, as of right now, we talk about Mexico and Canada specifically. I don't know how another way to say this, so I'm just going to say it. They don't scare me. Like, what are you going to do, Canada? What, you're going to cut off the American whiskey? Okay, fine. Maybe I'll find a bottle of Eagle Rare in the grocery store now. Is it the players in the game or part of this equation?
Well, it's interesting you bring up Mexico and Canada, because even though I could make a good devil's advocate case that for national security reasons, there might be some strategic argument for putting tariffs on China, I'd be perfectly open to many of those arguments, especially for things like microchips. I can understand and make a case for putting some tariffs on specific goods that are important to things like national defense and security, but that's not really what we're talking about when we talk about Mexico and Canada. Even though we can poke fun at the Canadians all we want, and we love to make fun of them for chugging maple syrup and eating waffles and being so impolite. But the truth is, if we had to choose any nation to be our next door neighbor, they'd probably be near the top of the list. They've been a very good friend and ally to us. And these tariffs on Canada and Mexico are especially strange because do you know who the president was who signed our latest trade agreement with Mexico and Canada back in 2018?
The president in 2018 would have been Donald Trump.
That's true. USMCA. And what's weird about these tariffs is that he effectively ripped up his own deal that he said was the best trade deal that's ever been signed, an unbelievably good trade deal that created more reciprocal trade and lowered. He ripped that up a year before it was set to be renegotiated. So we could have been having these negotiations a year from now, and it would have been more orderly because everyone would have known, oh, well, okay, they were scheduled to have these renegotiations. Instead, we pushed it up a year and are kind of implementing these threats in a very haphazard manner. And you're seeing it reflected now in the stock market and in the economy. There's too much uncertainty. Uncertainty is an economy killer, and that's what I worry about with these tariffs more than anything, is that because of how haphazard they've been implemented and bandied about, I think you're seeing a really negative effect on the economy because of that.
But and we got to remember, Scott, this is the last one before we get you out of here. God, it's been too long. Such a great conversation. We got economist Scott Burns with us. Last one before we get you out of here for today. And that is the tariffs on Mexico and Canada. What I was walking up to is they're a carrot on a stick. They're not part of a trade war. They're part of an incentive to help us in our drug war. Tariff as a carrot on a stick. Give me your analysis.
I think that there's a lot better tools that you could use to get more border enforcement and fentanyl stuff. And by the way, I don't think that's a very good argument against Canada. Against Mexico, I could maybe make some of those arguments, but we're a net exporter of fentanyl to Canada, so it doesn't really make sense against them. But to me, there's much better policy levers that you could pull that would be more direct and probably get better results. Tariffs are a very blunt tool. They don't just hurt politicians in Mexico and Canada. They hurt everybody, consumers in those countries, but they also hurt your own consumers. Implementing tariffs because they're primarily attacks on your own citizens is kind of like holding a hostage but having the gun to your own head. It's not a very good negotiating tactic.
He is Scott Burns. It's been far too long, man. This is so much fun. Let's get you back on in very short order because we got a lot to talk about.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'd love to talk about the impact of these on Louisiana because we're the fourth largest exporting nation. So this is going to disproportionately hurt the Louisiana economy.
You know what? That's where we'll pick it up next time because we have a few anecdotal examples in our own backyard of those who are taking advantage of the tariffs to grow their own business. So I know it runs afoul of the bigger picture and it is anecdotal, but it'll be fun to talk about. We'll connect soon.
Sounds good. I'd love to do it.
Always. Thank you so much. 8:18 at Talk 107.3 FM. Quick break. Come back. JFK Files next. Damn, that was awesome. Oh. Whew. Here, write this. Take this number down. 821 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. We're trying to connect. We're efforting right now to connect with LSU's Honor College Dean, Professor Jonathan Earle. We're supposed to be talking about the JFK Files right now, but apparently we're having some technical difficulties on that front. And I am putting the word out right now, sending up the bat signal to hopefully get some help. And can't connect on our end. Fantastic conversation with Scott in our last segment. And yeah, when we first launched the show, Scott came on a good bit to talk about just overall economic topics and whatnot. And he is a fantastic resource. And somewhere along the way, we lost connection, and I hadn't had him on in a good minute, and stumbled across him about 2 weeks ago and said, we need to make this happen. And we need to make it happen quickly. And I am so glad we did. So be on the lookout for more from Scott Burns in the near future. He's an economics professor over at Southeastern, and was at, I believe he got his economics degree from LSU. So, but just wonderful stuff. I also want to pick his brain on NIL and how sustainable it is with what we're looking at right now. Is it even sustainable? But we'll talk with him again at a later date. By the way, if you missed anything at all, it'll be available on demand at talk1073.com. Since we have a minute here and we're trying to connect with Dr. Earle, got to remind you about the folks over at Vex European. You can check them out online at vexeuropean.com, VEX, vexeuropean.com. Vinny and his team are celebrating their 10th anniversary this year. Been doing this for 10 years now, working on that specialization end. When it comes to European vehicles, you're going to get a master level technician, an expert level technician in your make of vehicle. If you drive an Audi, if you drive a Land Rover, if you drive a BMW, and so on and so forth, that's what you're going to get from vexeuropean.com is expert level technician. And with that comes someone who knows not just cars, but your car, your European vehicle in particular. Look, when you made the investment into your European vehicle, you wanted performance, you wanted longevity. The way to make sure you get performance for that longevity is by having Vex take care of your car. VexEuropean.com, VEX, V as in Vinny, VexEuropean.com. Oh man, it's bumming me out, man. I've been looking forward to this all week long. All week long, I've been looking forward to this. You cannot tell me that we can't get Dr. Jonathan Earle on the phone right now. I mean, I'm like, if you know him, call him.
I was going to say, is anybody out
if anybody's got a better number than we do.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be talking about the JFK Files. And what conspiracy theories are being codified, if you will. What conspiracy theories are being confirmed. What's new in the files. What's still missing. Does what's out there now challenge the narrative? Reinforce the narrative? Leave us asking more questions than we had before? Why has it taken till 2025 to get us where we are? And why is where we are not everything? Because there's still more out there.
Brian, if you recall, this is actually the second time we've had talks of conspiracy theories with files that we couldn't get in touch with the guest.
Is that a conspiracy theory within itself?
Right. That's what I'm thinking.
Who's the man behind the curtain that doesn't want us to talk?
It was another guy, right? It took about two or three times.
I know. This is infuriating.
Yeah.
I mean, we're sniffing too close to the actual
programming
source?
note. I've called, I hate to say this, but I've called 5 times and I've got nothing. So,
all right.
Yeah.
Well, grabbing this from the Daily Mail, the JFK assassination files prove that the deep state is real and not just a conspiracy theory pushed by President Trump and others. This, according to Glenn Greenwald. He highlighted a warning about the CIA's operation issued by President Kennedy's top advisor back in 1961, which appears in the newly released dossier. It's a 15-page memo. Within that memo, Arthur Schlesinger called for the intelligence agency to be disbanded, referring to it as a state within a state. The quote, no one knows how many potential problems for U.S. foreign policy and how much potential friction with friendly states are being created at this moment by CIA clandestine intelligence operations, Schlesinger wrote. And that was the beginning of all the deep state conversation way, way, way back in the day. Well, how has it evolved? How has it changed? How has it moved from there to where we are right now? The files themselves, I mean, there's a lot to break down, unpack from it, if you will. And unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to sit down and read word one just yet. No, I want to. I know badly I want to. It is, of every conspiracy theory out in the world, that's probably my biggest go-to that I believe is believable. I believe is believable. That's the right phrasing. Didn't look right on my screen. But when you start to unpack it, when you start to look at how many different stories there are out there and how many different people also believe, it becomes one of those where there's smoke, there's got to be some level of fire. All right, we're gonna have to call it. This isn't happening today. All right, no worries at all. We can reschedule with Dr. Jonathan Earle for a later date. We'll talk about the JFK files at a later date. We shall pivot. We got Foodie Friday coming up in a little bit. The folks from Cake That are going to be in the house. So more dessert for you and me, John, because that's what we needed right now.
That's it.
Our fat behinds needed more cake. Awesome.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Looks fantastic though. I can see into the hallway.
Yeah.
Looks really good.
Yep. I'm here for it. I'm ready for it. All right.
Man,
I know. I'm bummed. Hey, I tell you what, another thing I do want to talk about, though, I was hoping to get a chance to talk about, but we've only got about 2 minutes until news here, is how'd your bracket do in day one of the tournament? Day one of the NCAA tournament. I know day one of the round of 64. I know we have 68 teams in there. Day one was actually on Tuesday. But how's your bracket looking after day one? How much time did you spend watching basketball yesterday? I got to tell you, this is, of all the things on a sports calendar, the first 2 days of March Madness are my absolute favorite by far my absolute favorite. I know for a lot of folks in Baton Rouge, they circle those 2 weeks in Omaha. They circle the College World Series. I know for an overwhelming majority of us, that first home game where you get to fire up the grill and tailgate, or tailgate and fire up the grill. I want to do that in the right order. That's a big day on the sports calendar, but for me, it's yesterday and it's today. You've already seen a couple of upsets. You've already seen some brackets busted. How about you? Let's talk over on Facebook Live as we get into the news break here. We will continue that conversation. Before we hit news, our ABC News, before our local news, got to remind you about the folks at the Baton Rouge Metro Airport. Daily flight to Washington, D.C. Leaves out of Baton Rouge Metro, lands at Reagan National. Comes back home in the evening. You can get your business done in our state's capital. You can get your business done in our state's capital in the same day. Come home that night. FlyBTR.com. FlyBTR.com is the website. So if you got business in the nation's capital, if you've got, if you're just taking a trip for fun, they've got you covered there as well. It's FlyBTR.com. All right. ABC News coming your way right now. Then our local news, traffic, weather, then Foodie Fridays next. Okay. Not today. We'll reschedule. Double check his phone number though to make sure the number you were calling was right. Don't hit the weather yet. Let me do my Cajun soft wash. Get it knocked out. No, and I didn't say hit a bumper. I said let me do my Cajun soft wash. We are officially in spring, which means spring cleaning is upon us, which means Cajun Soft Wash needs to be your next phone call, or CajunSoftWash.com if you want to hit up the website, which I would recommend doing. Who is Cajun Soft Wash and what do they do? I'm glad you asked. Take a look at your walls of your house. Take a look at the roof of your house. You have that little green tinge or a little bit of black tinge growing out of there, a little bit of mold, a little bit of mildew, algae, lichen, whatever you've got going that is just built up with the ick from our climate, our weather, our humidity over the course of the last year or for however long. CajunSoftWash.com is your answer. Now, you think I'm talking about your house, and I am, but I'm also talking about your business. Your business, your actual physical property of your business is oftentimes the first impression with your client. CajunSoftWash.com, once again, your answer right here. Make sure your building is looking its best. And when you're talking about your roof, it's not just about the way it looks, it's about the longevity here. Protect the lifespan of your roof with Cajun Soft Wash and CajunSoftWash.com. 100% effective chemical mix that they put on there. It is a soft wash, so you're not blasting it out with a pressure washer. Take care of your roof. They take care of your roof. Take care of your walls. Take care of your sidewalks, your driveway, the whole works. They get it done at CajunSoftWash.com. Now it's time to get a look at your forecast. And definitely a colder start to the morning, but it's not going to stay that way. What we started off at 38 degrees when the morning began, we're already up to 50. We'll get back to that in a second. Today's high getting up to 72. We're going to get down to 46 tonight. Tomorrow, we're going to top out at 81. Sunday, we're topping out at 81. Sunday night into Monday, there's a 90% chance of rain and more thunderstorms. But that round of rain is not going to cool things off again because Monday's high is 76. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we're going to be in the low to mid 80s, the 82 to 83 degree range. So, yep, springtime is here, and the temperatures are going to continue to trend warmer. Right now, sunny skies, 50 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. Have you heard of the Dubai Bar? It's taking TikTok by storm. It has gone completely viral, and we have a local outlet that handles that. Want to welcome in Mindy Odell from Cake That. Mindy, how are you? Welcome to Talk 107.3.
Great. Thank you for having me.
No, glad to have you on here. Glad to have you on for a little Foodie Friday action. I gotta tell you, this is our second time going desserts on a Foodie Friday. And the moment you started opening up all those packages with the goodies in them, oh my goodness, it smells so fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
All right, we're gonna get into Dubai Bar in just a minute, but let's start with you. Let's start with your business. Let's start with what you do over at Cake That, where you're at, and how you got rolling.
Oh goodness. Probably it was about 13 years ago we got started. I started in my home as a home baker.
Okay.
Moved into my current bakery as a licensed bakery 5.5 years ago, and the one previously before that was about 1.5 years. So we're currently in Prairieville on Highway 44.
Okay.
We do classes, we do weddings, custom cakes, and we opened our storefront back up about 6 months ago.
Opened it back up?
Yes, because it's interesting. So we moved in November of 19. Does that sound right?
Okay.
Took my time building out, got the kitchen license immediately so we could keep putting our cakes out. And then took my time building out the front, learned all about lighting and counters and made it beautiful. Had a full staff of 9, fully trained, opened February 11th of 2020, closed March 13th of 2020.
Yeah.
Yes, it was a glorious month. After that, we barely survived through the drive-through, just putting out cupcakes through the window.
Yeah.
We paid rent and survived. So, and then as things came back to life, we tried to open back up. It was just really slow. We probably did it too soon. I was really excited to get it back open, but I think I might have just done it too soon. So
unbelievable. And we're in 2025 now.
Yes, it's been a long journey.
Yeah.
But weddings are great, and custom cakes and parties and classes. Kids love to come take baking classes. Adults love parties. So we've survived, and opening back up is our next little leg. So we'll see if it works this time.
But you are open back up now.
We are.
Staff's
currently.
back up?
Staff is great. They're trained. Everybody's doing great.
Wonderful. We're talking with Mindy Odell from Cake That out on Highway 44 in Prairieville. This is our Foodie Friday segment, and we are going full on desserts. Okay, let's rewind the clock back to what got Mindy into being. You said you started off as a home baker. Obviously, something triggered there. Something clicked. You got bit by the bacon bug.
Yes.
How did that happen?
Well, actually, I used to be a social worker. I used to do child protection.
Total segue right there. What an easy transition.
Well, once I started having kids, I trusted nobody. I think I'd just seen too much.
Okay.
So I quit my career and stayed home with my babies. Well, that gets pretty boring. I mean, I love my kids, don't get me wrong, but
I have 3. I completely
definitely
understand.
need more going on in life than diapers. So, so there was this class at Hobby Lobby. I thought, oh, that might be fun. Brooklyn, my niece, actually went with me.
Okay.
And that's how it all got started. So they trick you. They say, oh, it's only a $25 class, but then you have to buy hundreds of dollars worth of tools. And me being frugal, I'm like, well, I don't want that to go to waste. So now I'm going to keep using them. Right. So I started making all my friends' kids' birthday cakes for their birthdays. And my friends were very kind. And you should have seen some of the stuff I put out. It was not pretty, but they kept letting me do it because they were nice. And eventually they said, hey, you know what? I think you're good enough to start selling this. And I was like, no.
I mean, with the amount of time from home baker till now, I think we qualify you as an expert in the field.
Yeah.
We can say. I mean, you survived COVID, long COVID, but survived
we got
COVID.
through COVID.
So, like, let's for those who have the itch to do this, for those who like to tinker around in the kitchen, maybe bake a little on their own, what would your advice be to them if they're thinking about taking that jump, taking that entrepreneurship leap to turn this from a hobby to a business?
Oh, it takes a long time to make money. The tools are stupid expensive. But YouTube University, that's where I went to school for my, my next career. And it saves a lot of money on, culinary school.
Sure.
So you can learn a lot online, but the tools are expensive, but the right tools are imperative. You have to have the right tools. Otherwise it's going to look terrible.
Okay. Well, I mean, I know there's a lot of folks out there that, and this is the whole point of Foodie Friday is upping our game at home, right? We all like to think we got a little bit of game in the kitchen. I know what I do well. I know what I don't do well. I know baking is something that I won't even touch.
Right.
I don't know why.
I'm the opposite. I can't cook for anything.
Put me on the grill all day long. I can handle anything on the grill, but you put me with a oven that I have to walk away from for a certain amount of time, and you
have to weigh. You have to all the
because
that's why I can't cook. I'm like, if it says a teaspoon, I'm putting in a teaspoon.
Give me something I can adjust along the way.
Right.
With baking, it's like once it's in there, it's in there. You can't add or subtract after that point. So, Mindy Odell with Cake That is our guest for Foodie Friday. All right, so we're going to get into some of what you brought in for us to sample here, which all looks amazing. I've already actually tried the chocolate chip cookie, which is beyond compare. But these Dubai bars have taken TikTok by storm.
Yes.
What are they, and how did you come across them?
So of course, I have kids, so of course I've been hearing about the Dubai bars for a while too, and several people asked me about them. I'm like, no, it's just a trend. I don't want to do it. Finally, I was like, okay, let me try it. There's no way it could be nearly as good as what everybody says. And what's in it is we use Ghirardelli chocolate on the outside.
Okay.
So like a high quality chocolate. That's very important. And then on the inside is like a pistachio paste and like this phyllo to give it a little crisp. And it's really quite good. Like I was pretty surprised that it was so good. And it's done remarkably well. So we're actually thinking about opening up and doing more flavors and doing like Nutella and peanut butter and maybe white chocolate. And I don't know if that's what people want, we'll give it to them for sure. So,
well, but a part of this is the scarcity as well. Yes. And part of the craze is the scarcity and how far you have to go to get them. And you're providing an option right here in our own backyard.
Right. So a lot of home bakers do make them. I've seen them online a lot. But we don't know what kind of chocolate they're using or anything. I mean, some kitchens are good and some, they're not licensed, so they're not inspected. So you can come in, we have a big open window where you can see straight into our kitchen. So you know what we're doing.
Cool. Yeah.
Yes. I did that intentionally just because I like to know where my food's coming from, and
Well,
I
yeah.
think you probably would too.
Mhm.
So
So with the Dubai bar, it's the chocolate on the outside, and you get the phyllo dough and the pistachio like paste.
Yes.
Okay, so it basically has the makeup of a chocolate bar. That being said, I mean, when you go into, if you're in a convenience store or whatever, you go to grab like a Twix or whatever, you don't get a recipe for Twix.
No.
How'd you master the recipe here? Because I feel like this, and I don't know the backstory, but was
Right.
this trial and error?
Absolutely. Anytime
Oh
you
my
want to try
goodness.
something new, you can Google it.
Yeah.
And then you try it until it tastes good,
Mhm.
right? So that's how all of our recipes have come about. I'm not gonna say that I'm not good enough to just come up with something out of the air.
Well,
So
no,
I
but
just
something
tweak
like
things that-
something like a chocolate cupcake.
Yes.
They've been around a little bit.
Right.
They've been, but like with this, with the pistachio and the phyllo dough, like that's not something everybody had heard of really until it became a viral sensation.
Right.
So developing your own recipe from that, if you were to do a side by side with wherever people are ordering these things online versus yours, I mean, in order to make that comparable, or there's even better, then I mean it's a lot more than just guesswork.
So the biggest, I think, doing a lot of research, I did a lot of research to find out what about the best ingredients.
Okay.
That I think is the most important part of it. I mean, most people can put this together, but having access to the best ingredients, that's what's going to be key.
And I have a feeling that's going to translate to probably everything you do.
I hope so.
Well, I mean, no,
it's very important.
Yes,
to me.
if it's prioritized on the front end, you'll
Yes.
net the dividends on the back end, which I can already speak from experience with something as simple as a chocolate chip cookie. That there's a difference in those chocolate chips.
Yes.
There is a difference within. I don't know what's in your recipe, but there's a number of flavors that are popping out that aren't your basic.
Right.
This isn't the I have a very simple family recipe for our chocolate chip cookies. This isn't that. This has more intricacies to it.
Right.
All right. We got a break coming up in a little bit over a minute. But if you could, for us, talk about the Dubai bar on a local level, the popularity of it. Are they flying off the shelves?
Flying off the shelves. We are making I've had to order so many molds. We can't keep them. People are calling to make sure we have them in stock. We're out so often.
I mean, it's really amazing because it's you look at it here and the packaging of it it's got a little bit of what is that, like a
edible gold
on top,
white chocolate,
and then that white chocolate, but it's not exactly white. It looks like it's got a little bit of green to it, like
yes,
it would match the pistachio on the inside.
Exactly.
So, but I mean, the bar itself here, how many of these can you pump out in let's say a day?
Oh, dozens and dozens.
Mm-hmm.
So we use molds to make this pretty shape, and
right.
then that it takes a long time though. It really takes a lot of hours.
Was there one particular TikTok that you were following, or what? Or was this like a culmination of a bunch of them? Okay.
I do my research when I'm doing something new, and these ingredients are very expensive, so I don't want to mess up.
All right, we've got Mindy Odell from Cake That in with us for Foodie Friday. We're gonna take a break on the air. Stick around on Facebook Live. I'm gonna stuff my fat face and get a load of the Dubai bar to see what all the craze is about. On air, we'll continue after Your Money Now in Traffic on Facebook Live. Stick around. All right, I'm dying to do this. Let's go. What is that comparable to? What has such a different? The pistachio is so different.
Yes.
What is that comparable to? I couldn't figure it out either. It's so freaking good, but like, but I gotta have words. I need words. I can't. It's so freaking good. I gotta do better than that. Normally, when I think of pistachio, like I love eating pistachios, but when you eat a pistachio, it's salty. And then when you have a pistachio ice cream, that's its own unique flavor. This is different than any of those.
Yes.
I got it. Right. Spinny wheel. What the Ghirardelli chocolate is obviously amazing. That's awesome from John.
Has to be. We don't even sell Hershey's.
Yeah.
We don't even have Hershey's in our building. Not that there's anything wrong with Hershey's. Please don't sue me, Hershey's.
That little bit of crunch. No, Hershey's can stick it. There's that little bit of crunch. makes it feel like a candy bar,
Right.
not just a chocolate bar, but like a candy bar. But I got to be able to describe this flavor. This is so yeah, and the consistency of it is because it's not like hard crunch,
It's crispy.
right? Crispy but fluffy.
Mm-hmm.
And that
The Nestle Crunch marries the Butterfinger, marries the
see the Butterfinger would have that's the crunchy crispy like
Yes.
crunch. But this is somewhere in between with the fluffiness to it, not like a Kinder Bueno, because that's just pure fluff. I just do not know how to describe this flavor. This sucks. I can't. No, it doesn't suck.
No,
It's
no, no,
awesome.
I understand.
Oh, look at this. I love gold.
Yes. Here. The words.
Yeah.
Got someone on Facebook. I'm diabetic, and I would still tear them up.
How much you want to bet that that's Dylan?
It is.
Is it Dylan's?
It is. Yep.
I already knew the second the diabetic
That
line was
is
dropped. I was like,
that's
I know
funny.
that's Dylan.
That's funny.
I mean, I guess pistachio is a nut, so there's a bit of nuttiness to it,
Mhm.
but it's not overwhelming like a peanut.
Right.
The
And you
sweet's
add
not
in
too
the
sweet.
sweet
It's
and you add in the
golly.
Dude, I lose a
texture.
foot
Yeah.
over
All right. So it's just going to be kind of an all over the map type of review. This isn't as simple as,
Burger.
yeah. Yeah. Thing is, throughout the summertime, the Louisiana Beef Industry Council sponsors a segment, so we're making beef every week.
Uh-huh.
So that's my wheelhouse, because that's what I cook. That's what I had
Right.
steaks last night.
Right,
for
of
crying out
course.
loud. And I could break down every ounce of it,
Uh-huh.
every ounce of fat cap, every ounce of marbling, whatever the
Right.
case might be. When it comes to beef, I know my beef inside and out. This is 4 years worth of doing the segment with that sponsorship. This is the second time we've had a dessert person on.
Right.
We've had
And did
one
she
of
bring a
the
Dubai bar?
No, this is my first time with the Dubai bar.
That
So,
was Cammie with
I'm
small
looking-
cakes?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. She brought king cakes.
Yeah. I really need one of her king cakes.
She makes a It. She said it was like Dong Fong, but this no BS. So much better.
Really? She told me to get the
blows Dong Fong out
brioche.
of the-
Did she bring
yes,
the
that's
Okay,
the
that's
one.
what she told me I
Yeah,
need.
because Dong Fong is like more.
Yeah.
It's somewhere between brioche and like a flaky, almost croissant like. Hers is a million times better because it's more true to a king cake recipe that leans in that direction,
Right.
rather than being the full on Dong Fong type that oh look, it's in a king cake shape. Like
Right.
hers is still a king cake. I was blown away from
Right.
jump. So oh shit, I haven't tried anything else yet. What you know what? I'll just let you walk me through what we have back here. Just
Okay.
kind of run down the menu.
Would it be weird to mention that we just won Best of Weddings again
Nope.
for 3 years in a row?
From
The Knot.
the knot.
Mhm. It's a wedding.
Okay.
Best of Weddings. Yes. Thank you. So our cake is actually that's our main thing.
Yeah.
This is just new.
Oh, so yeah, I'm trying to decide which one on the cupcakes. I can't go too many deep, but I want this. Is that a brownie?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the brownie with the M&Ms. I will fight somebody for that. That looks beautiful.
Thank you.
Dumbfounded by the Dubai bar. My first time biting into a Dubai bar. We've got We got Mindy Odell from Cake That in with us. And by the way, we haven't even talked about cakes yet, really. And that's what y'all do.
Yes.
But so I got to learn firsthand why the Dubai Bar is so insanely popular. Is because it leaves you like at a loss for words.
Right.
It just throwing it all together. You mentioned the Ghirardelli chocolate, which premium chocolate makes
it.
Yes, because as soon as you bite in, there's that creaminess of the chocolate. There's the crunchiness of the phyllo dough. Phyllo dough. It has just a little bit of crunch to kind of go in through the creamy. Of course you've got sweetness, but it's not an overwhelming sweet. It's not like a biting sweet. Right. And then because it's pistachio, it's just a little bit of a nutty flavor, but it's not overwhelming. Like if you had a peanut in there instead of a pistachio, it would be nothing but peanut, right? If you put a peanut in, it's nothing but peanut. This is like all kind of playing in tandem. Kind of like, you don't know which member of the cast of Friends is your favorite.
Right.
Same thing with the ingredients here, and they all play very, very nicely together. And I can see why after having just a couple of bites, and I had to have more than one bite because after the first bite, I'm like, I got no way to describe this. So good. Anyway, if you've not yet tried the Dubai Bar, Cake That's got them. Now, Cake That has cakes as well. We've only got 2 minutes left, Mindy.
Okay.
So tell me about the cakes, what y'all bring to the table, what y'all bring to the world of weddings.
So weddings are our biggest thing. I'm really proud of our weddings. We just won Best of Weddings 3 years in a row with the Knot. So that just came out. And so we're really proud of that. Our cakes are really good. I feel like they have to be calorie worthy. There's a lot of competition for sweets and junk food. This has to be worth it. So fresh ingredients, it's from scratch and moist, flavorful, but not overpowering.
The thing about weddings, and this goes away from just being a normal bakery. The thing about weddings is, that's the day. That's everything is looking forward towards that day. And look, I've DJ'd weddings for. Right. That's where I know you. You've probably brought a cake to a wedding I've DJ'd.
Maybe.
Sorry, I just ADD'd there. Squirrel. All right, let's back on track. But like when you're DJing a wedding, that first dance is everything. And when you are making a wedding cake, that's what's going to be talked about after the fact. Yes. So you've got to be on point every time.
Yes.
Unbelievable stuff. Where can folks find you on Highway 44 in Prairieville? The exact.
We're about 0.9 miles from 42 between Graceworks Church and DeLon Stewart Center.
Cake That. Cake That is the name of it. If you wanted to buy a bar, if you are due up for you're planning your nuptials right now, 2-time Best Bakery winner. Three.
Three years in a row.
3 years in a row at the Knot. She is Mindy Odell from Cake That. Stick around on Facebook Live. We're going to keep going for a couple more minutes because I haven't even tried the cupcakes yet. Shame on me. On air, Moon Griffon's next. We'll see you next week. All right.
Thank you.
I'd lay dollars to donuts that, yes, we've probably been at the same wedding somewhere.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I do this a lot. We do over 100 weddings
I keep trying to cut back.
Yeah.
It's side hustle. It's the weekends.
Right.
But at the same time, though, it's their day.
It is. It's very important.
It's impossible not to remove the.
Yeah. So birthday cakes, that's great. Everybody gets a birthday every year. But a wedding is extremely important.
And the wedding that they're actually going to spend on.
Yes. Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's one of the reasons why I can't fully break away from the DJing and whatnot.
It's
is because
special.
They're
going to remember this for the rest of their lives.
There's reward for that.
Yeah.
There's reward in okay, I made this night run.
Right.
No offense to the wedding planner, but
right. They have a lot of work too.
All right. The pro tip that people need to know when they're coming to see you, what is your favorite thing on your own menu?
Oh my goodness, it depends on the day. That cookie. That cookie.
That's a good answer.
That's the best cookie I've ever had.
Good answer.
It's a dark chocolate chip sea salt. It's the best cookie I've ever had.
That's what I'm missing.
Sea salt. With the Ghirardelli chocolate, again, we use high quality ingredients. So
awesome.
So that matters.
Thank you so much for coming in today. I greatly. Oh wait. Oh, which one? Point me in one.
Oh, any of them are good.
Okay.
It's your preference.
Are
The carrot.
Huh?
The carrot cake. Do you like carrot cake?
Carrot ones.
Love carrot cake.
With the pecan.
Carrot cake. Oh snap. John, show that off on air. Put it right up to the camera. Yeah, I know. All right, y'all. About to dive into the carrot cake. Oh, don't. Yeah, block me out. That's what we're doing here. Simple pecan on top. Secret to a good carrot cake is what?
Oh gosh, fresh. No mixes. It's real carrots. I tease all my couples that this is as healthy as eating a salad. It has so many carrots in it.
Absolutely. So, last Sunday, and I'm still got the residual sunburn from it, but last Sunday it was in Metairie for the St. Patrick's Day Parade. The Metairie St. Patrick's Day Parade throws produce.
Yes.
So at home right now, yeah, my wife's
All the
part
cabbage
of the
and carrots. You should.
I
make
have
one.
that's why I'm asking. That's why I'm picking your brain about
absolutely.
this. Because, I have a million carrots and don't know what to do with it. I'm trying to this week I've eaten 2 carrots a day every day. And these aren't like normal carrots.
Right.
These are
They're like dogs.
Yes.
It's not
Yes.
the puppies.
I know they got like girth to them. They're like disgustingly huge. It's like a tree branch.
Right.
So I don't know what to do with all the I know what to do. We'll make cold cannon out of the cabbage, mixing it with potatoes and whatnot. But with the carrots, it's like, what do? You can only eat so many carrots.
Right.
Before you turn into Bugs Bunny.
This is definitely the way to go.
All right. I don't have a retractable jaw, so this is gonna be kind of
There you go. That's impressive.
That's perfect. Oh my god, that's so perfect.
Thank you. And don't you feel your eyes getting better?
Yeah, totally. I see everything now.
Salad. It's so healthy.
I don't even need my glasses anymore. First and foremost, she's lying. It's not a salad. It's so sweet. The icing on top is unbelievably well paired with the carrots are sweet.
Yes.
They're earthy, but they're sweet.
Yes.
And that plays really, really well here. And using real carrots, making all the difference in the world. Thank you for recommending this one.
Thank you.
Absolutely. This was wonderful. Y'all go see them out in Prairieville on Highway 44. Tell me where again, 0.9 miles from what?
From Highway 42.
0.9 miles from Highway
Sometimes
42.
GPS sends you to Burnside. Don't do that.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank
Facebook,
you.
we will see y'all next we'll see you on Monday.